Chapter 265. Sun Yan had successfully ambushed Zhou Yifeng by concealing herself. Then Yun Ruoyan saw her figure flicker not far from Zhou Yifeng, as if she was about to launch another sneak attack on him. Zhou Yifeng, be careful. Yun Ruoyan warned as she threw a fireball in her direction. Sun Yan's attempt to launch another sneak attack was thwarted by Yun Ruoyan. She reappeared some distance away from the three of them, a dagger in her hand that was still stained with Zhou Yifeng's blood. She glared at Yun Ruoyan with her beady eyes. I only want to take Zhou Yifeng's life to avenge my senior brother. The two of you had better not interfere. Speaking of revenge, I also have a score to settle with you. Guan Ruliu replied coldly. You want to kill the three of us? I'm afraid it won't be so easy. All right, in that case I'll kill all three of you at once, Sun Yan declared viciously. That way my senior brother won't be lonely on his way to the Yellow Springs. As soon as she finished speaking, Sun Yan disappeared once more. This time it was Guan Ruliu who was injured. A deep gash appeared on the back of her right hand. Flying needles. Zhou Yifeng sent a large swarm of sharp flying leaves at Guan Ruliu's side. Sun Yan had been injured by the flying leaves, revealing her true form. Fireball technique. As soon as Sun Yan revealed her true form, Yun Ruoyan released an enormous fireball at her. As Sun Yan dodged the flying needles, she couldn't dodge Yun Ruoyan's fireball in time, and the fireball flew straight at her. Sun Yan's reaction was also extremely fast. Her beautiful hands made a beautiful gesture, and a gust of wind appeared in her hands, fanning towards the fireball. The fireball was blown off course by the gust of wind and brushed past Sun Yan's hair. A series of crackling sounds could be heard as the flame ignited a few strands of Sun Yan's hair. You're courting death. Sun Yan's eyes were bloodshot, and her killing intent surged. Senior brother Guan. Rong Yueshan, who had been watching the show from the sidelines, leaned over to Guan Tianyu's side. Why don't we take this opportunity to? Rong Yueshan made a killing gesture with her hand. Guan Tianyu looked at her, stunned. Although he didn't like Yun Ruoyan and Zhou Yifeng, all he wanted to do was teach them a lesson, not take their lives. However, he was happy to be a bystander and watch others kill the two of them. Let's wait a little longer, Guan Tianyu said. Sun Yan's too powerful, we might not even need to act. Yi Qianying noticed Guan Tianyu's hesitation and said, Senior brother Guan, these three are obviously suspecting us of plotting against Guan Ruliu and the others. If we let them out alive and report this to the Grand Elder, even if we can't find any concrete evidence, it'll still be troublesome for us. So we might as well go all the way. Yi Qianying's words struck Guan Tianyu's greatest worry. Fine. If Sun Yan can't kill them, we'll make our move, Guan Tianyu decided. At this moment, Sun Yan, whose eyes were filled with killing intent, put away the dagger in her hand. With a flip of her hand, she took out a thin sword that flickered with silver light. Then, with a flash of her body, she disappeared once again. She's going to use a killing technique. Everyone be careful. Guan Ruliu warned. Yun Ruoyan held her dagger in one hand and spiritual energy in the other, ready to unleash a fireball at a moment's notice. As Zhou Yifeng held his bow with both hands, he infused spiritual energy into the tiger canine arrowheads. At the moment, Guan Ruliu was only a 5th-rank blade master, the weakest of the three. Sun Yan was likely to target her first, so Yun Ruoyan and Zhou Yifeng had to focus on protecting her. The three of them nervously defended themselves for quite a while. Sun Yan didn't make a move, but their high concentration would quickly tire them out. In the cold weather, all three of them were sweating profusely. We can't go on like this, Yun Ruoyan murmured. Do you have any ideas? Guan Ruliu asked. Yun Ruoyan's brain raced. I do, but I'll have to trouble senior sister Guan to act as bait. As Sun Yan concealed herself, she searched for an opportunity to ambush the three of them. She knew that, although the three of them weren't as strong as she was, none of them were easy to deal with. It wouldn't be easy for her to kill the three of them either. All she could do was remain calm and wait for an opportunity to kill them all in one blow. However, the three of them were so well coordinated that Sun Yan couldn't find any openings. Just as Sun Yan was beginning to panic, she noticed a flaw in their plan. Guan Ruliu, who had been shielded by Yun Ruoyan and Zhou Yifeng the entire time, seemed to have been so nervous that she lost her composure and exposed half of her body. Without hesitation, Sun Yan stepped forward, raised her thin sword and slashed at Guan Ruliu's body. Yun Ruoyan's mental energy was being released to its fullest extent. Although she couldn't pinpoint Sun Yan's position, she was able to detect the silver light that shone from Sun Yan's thin sword. Without hesitation, Yun Ruoyan threw out the dark steel dagger in her hand, and at the same time a fireball shot out. Sun Yan used her silver sword to block Yun Ruoyan's dagger, then used her wind-attuned spiritual energy to block the fireball. Just then a snow-white arrowhead pierced through the fireball and into Sun Yan's chest. Sun Yan spat out a mouthful of blood. She stared at the arrowhead in disbelief, then slowly collapsed to the ground, dead. They actually killed senior sister Sun. Yiqianying cried out in shock. Guan Tianyu was also stunned by the sudden turn of events. Sun Yan's cultivation was the same as his, but her cultivation was more secretive. He had sparred with her in the past, but he had never won. Even his grandfather, the second elder, had praised Sun Yan for her prowess as a hunter. The combination of Sun Yan and Song Yi was unparalleled in the Northern College, and even in the entirety of Kongming Academy, they would be considered formidable. That was why the second elder had assigned them to protect Guan Tianyu. But he hadn't expected that both of them would die at Zhou Yifeng's hands. "Senior brother Guan, what are you waiting for? Let's attack together." Rong Yueshan called out, her heart burning with anxiety. She had already lost the best opportunity to kill Yun Ruoyan, but she still didn't act rashly. Guan Ruhai had warned her before entering the academy that the elders would place great importance on this training. As a result, no matter how much she wanted to kill Yun Ruoyan, she couldn't do it openly. Otherwise, the second elder would be the first to punish her. As a result, she had to do it discreetly and without anyone noticing. But there was one other possibility: provoking Guan Tianyu into attacking her. Guan Tianyu was the second elder's only descendant, and no matter what he did, the second elder would always protect him. As a result, accomplices like her wouldn't be severely punished either. "Senior brother Guan, let's go." Pei Zhou and Yiqianying also called out. "All right, let's go." Guan Tianyu finally couldn't resist the urging of those around him. As soon as he called out, Rong Yueshan, Yiqianying and Pei Zhou took out their weapons and charged toward Yun Ruoyan's group. Pei Zhou's spear stabbed toward Yun Ruoyan without hesitation. Yun Ruoyan's dark steel dagger had fallen into a distant tree, and she had lost her weapon. Fortunately, Yun Ruoyan's reaction was fast enough to dodge Pei Zhou's attack. By this time, Rong Yueshan was facing off against Zhou Yifeng, and Yiqianying was facing off against Guan Ruliu. Zhou Yifeng's cultivation had been slightly lower than Rong Yueshan's, but after cultivating a wood-attuned external martial technique, his cultivation had improved tremendously. By now he was able to fight Rong Yueshan without being at a disadvantage. Although Guan Ruliu's cultivation had dropped significantly, it was just enough to deal with Yiqianying. Although Pei Zhou had a weapon in his hands, Yun Ruoyan had used her bracelet to increase her cultivation. Her fireball technique and direct spiritual energy attacks were both much more powerful, and she was able to exchange a few blows with Pei Zhou. "Yun Ruoyan, I've always been accommodating to you, but you really don't know what's good for you. Today I'm going to make you pay for this." Pei Zhou pointed his spear at Yun Ruoyan, his eyes bloodshot. "Then come at me. Cut the crap." Yun Ruoyan shouted, then threw several fireballs at Pei Zhou. After dodging a few of them, Pei Zhou turned around and thrust his spear at Yun Ruoyan. Yun Ruoyan bent her waist and the tip of the spear brushed past her face. At this moment, Yun Ruoyan turned her hand and grabbed the spear's tip. A wave of spiritual energy enhanced by her bracelet flowed from Yun Ruoyan's hand to Pei Zhou's hands. Pei Zhou instantly felt a sharp pain in his hands, which quickly spread throughout his body, as if his entire body had been electrocuted in an instant. Pei Zhou gritted his teeth and didn't let go. Instead, he released his spiritual energy to resist Yun Ruoyan's attack. However, he quickly discovered that Yun Ruoyan's spiritual energy was extremely strange. After a period of hard work, Pei Zhou's cultivation was now at the peak of 7th rank, and he shouldn't be too far off from Yun Ruoyan's. However, he discovered that the amount of spiritual energy Yun Ruoyan was using to deal with him was much higher than his. Pei Zhou felt that he wouldn't be able to hold on for much longer. If he couldn't, even if he didn't die, he would be severely injured. Yun Ruoyan, on the other hand, was also struggling. She had expended quite a bit of spiritual energy in her battle with Sun Yan. If not for that, her 7th rank spiritual energy would have been boosted to the peak of 8th rank by the bracelet, and she wouldn't have been able to defeat Pei Zhou. Now, however, she could only barely raise her spiritual energy to the early 8th rank. Senior brother Guan, I can't hold on much longer. Come help me. Pei Zhou pleaded to Guan Tianyu, who had been standing by the side. Rong Yueshan and Yi Qianying were being held up by Zhu Yifeng and Guan Ruliu respectively, and the only one who could help was Guan Tianyu. Guan Tianyu had been spoiled by the second elder, and he had developed a domineering and reckless personality. However, as soon as he left the second elder's protection, he would become even more cautious. Now that the three of them were fighting each other, it was time for him to strike. He took out his weapon, a large saber, and walked up to Yun Ruoyan. Brat, I didn't want to kill you, but you've offended too many people and you know too much. If I don't kill you, I'll send you on your way. Guan Tianyu raised the saber in his hand and brought it down on Yun Ruoyan's head. Chapter 266. Yun Ruoyan was held back by Pei Zhou, while Zhu Yifeng and Guan Tianyu were engaged in a fierce battle with Rong Yueshan and Yi Qianying. Just then, Guan Tianyu raised his sword and swung it down at Yun Ruoyan's head. Yun Ruoyan, be careful. Zhu Yifeng cried out in alarm. Yun Ruoyan was still competing with Pei Zhou in terms of spiritual energy when, as soon as she turned her head, she saw a gleaming blade flying toward her face. In that instant, her pupils suddenly changed color, turning crimson. Guan Tianyu was just in time to see Yun Ruoyan's expression change, but his hand didn't stop in the slightest. In the depths of Yun Ruoyan's mind, a pair of scarlet eyes suddenly opened. That scarlet eye emitted a beam of light that pierced through Yun Ruoyan's eyes and headed straight for Guan Tianyu. Ah, my eyes, my eyes. Guan Tianyu wailed like a pig being slaughtered. The beam of light that had shot out from Yun Ruoyan's eyes had pierced right into Guan Tianyu's own. Guan Tianyu felt as if 2 balls of fire had entered his eyes, and tears of blood flowed down his cheeks. I'm blind. Help, I'm blind. Guan Tianyu threw away his sword and fell to the ground, searching helplessly for his eyes. Yun Ruoyan's scarlet eyes turned toward Pei Zhou, who was still engaged in a contest of spiritual energy with her. The sudden turn of events had left Pei Zhou dumbfounded, and when Yun Ruoyan's gaze landed on him, he immediately closed his eyes. Just then, another wave of spiritual energy surged toward him, sending him flying backward. When he landed on the ground, he spat out a mouthful of blood. Clearly, his injuries weren't light. All 4 of them stopped fighting and looked toward Yun Ruoyan simultaneously. At that moment, Yun Ruoyan's eyes were bloodshot, and she seemed to have transformed into a completely different person. Yun Ruoyan, what's wrong? Yifeng and Guan Ruliu asked. Yun Ruoyan, however, didn't seem to hear them. She slowly bent down, picked up Guan Tianyu's sword and walked toward him, who was crawling on the ground. Everyone stared in shock as Yun Ruoyan walked up to Guan Tianyu, raised her sword and was about to chop down on his head. Just as Guan Tianyu was about to become a ghost under Yun Ruoyan's blade, a streak of green light shot toward him like a bolt of lightning. In the blink of an eye, Li Mo appeared by Yun Ruoyan's side and grabbed her wrist. Yan what's wrong? Li Mo asked. Yun Ruoyan stared at Li Mo with bloodshot eyes, and Li Mo felt as if 2 balls of fire had suddenly fallen into his eyes. His pitch-black pupils suddenly turned icy blue, dispelling the burning sensation in time. Li Mo tapped the back of Yun Ruoyan's neck, and she finally closed her eyes and fainted in his arms. Master Mo, what took you so long? Guan Ruliu asked. Ruoyan almost died at their hands. Li Mo held Yun Ruoyan in his arms as his icy blue eyes swept over Guan Tianyu, Rong Yueshan and Yun Ruoyan. I've already said that you're not allowed to harm fellow disciples during this training. You've all been stripped of this opportunity, so scram. Master Mo, I refuse to accept this. Pei Zhou stepped forward. Senior Song Yi and Senior Sun Yen both died at Zhu Yifeng's hands, and Senior Brother Guan's eye was injured by Yun Ruoyan. If you're going to punish us, you'll have to punish them as well, or I won't accept this. You refuse to accept this. Li Mo's blue eyes returned to their original pitch-black color, and his gaze toward Zhu Yifeng was as cold as ever. That's right. I refuse to accept this. Pei Zhou repeated. Then I'll make sure you do. Li Mo flicked his sleeves at Pei Zhou, and a gust of spiritual energy swept up Pei Zhou and sent him crashing to the ground, blood dripping from his mouth. Take Guan Tianyu with you and scram. This time no one dared to object. Yi Qianying helped pay Xiao up, and Rong Yueshan helped Guan Tianyu, whose eyes were bloodshot. Then they used a teleportation scroll to return to the treehouse. Mistress, are you all right? In the darkness, Yun Ruoyan seemed to hear Qiuqiu's cries. She slowly opened her eyes and found herself lying in an unfamiliar pitch-black place. Qiuqiu, where am I? Yun Ruoyan called out to Qiuqiu, but it seemed to have disappeared. You're in your head. Qiuqiu didn't respond to Yun Ruoyan, but there was a familiar voice that Yun Ruoyan couldn't recall from where. Who are you? Where did you say this was? Yun Ruoyan asked immediately. As soon as she asked, a scarlet light suddenly lit up not far in front of Yun Ruoyan. Yun Ruoyan saw a scarlet eye slowly open, the source of the scarlet light. It's you. As soon as Yun Ruoyan saw the demonic eye, she remembered who it was, and even the voice sounded familiar. Yun Ruoyan remembered that this demonic eye was the dragon soul hidden within the demonic ring, and that she had interacted with it before. Yes, it's me, the voice replied. Weren't you taken back by the demon elders? Yun Ruoyan continued. The One Ring was taken back, but my remnant soul was left behind, the voice said. I was ordered by the Great Elder to protect you when you are in danger. Protect me? Yun Ruoyan hadn't expected the demonic eye's sudden appearance and words. Yes, to protect you. Until you find your true identity, I'll remain in your body, the demonic eye continued. The crimson demon eye continued. But your spirit energy cultivation is too low, it's not enough to support me for too long. Most of the time I'll be in a state of slumber. Only when your life is threatened will I appear. Then who are you? Yun Ruoyan knew that there was no changing the fact that the demonic eye was in her body. I'm a protector of the demonic dragon clan. The voice slowly closed its eyes and Yun Ruoyan's surroundings turned pitch black once more. Mistress, can you hear me? Yen, wake up. Li Mo's voice rang out at the same time that Yun Ruoyan finally woke up from the darkness. Yun Ruoyan opened her eyes to see Li Mo looking at her with concern. What's wrong with me? Yun Ruoyan found herself half lying in Li Mo's embrace, her mind still replaying the moment when Guan Tianyu's sword had struck her. On your wake. Guan Ruliu also walked up to Yun Ruoyan's side, her eyes concerned. Are you feeling unwell? Li Mo's senior sister Guan, what's wrong with me? Yun Ruoyan tried to sit up, but she found that she didn't have much spiritual energy left in her body. You've been unconscious for 2 days, Guan Ruliu replied, her expression turning a little suspicious. What fire attune technique did you use that day to blind Guan Tianyu's eyes? I've never heard of such a domineering technique before. Yun Ruoyan paused for a moment, then immediately recalled the words of the demonic eye's spirit. Connecting them to Guan Ruliu's words, Yun Ruoyan guessed that when Guan Tianyu had tried to slash at him, the demonic eye had used some sort of method to blind Guan Tianyu's eyes and save her from his blade. Ruoyan, what's wrong? Guan Ruliu asked when she saw her daughter in a daze. Oh, she's just woken up. Let her rest a little longer. Li Mo interrupted their conversation. Upon hearing Li Mo's words, Guan Ruliu nodded and left. After Guan Ruliu left, Li Mo continued to stare at Yun Ruoyan without a word, making her feel uncomfortable all over. Li Mo, why are you looking at me like that? Yun Ruoyan asked. Yen, are you hiding something from me? Li Mo finally asked. Yun Ruoyan paused, then looked away. After a moment of silence, she realized that she hadn't seen Zhou Yifeng anywhere. Where's Zhou Yifeng? Why don't I see him? Li Mo sighed and replied patiently, there was a wild beast passing by not too far away and he went to investigate. He'll probably be back soon. What about Immortal? Why don't I see it either? Yun Ruoyan looked around. And why is senior sister Guan still with us? Isn't she supposed to take care of the 2 students who've lost their cultivations? The beasts have been passing by more and more frequently these past 2 days, and the heavenly spirit fruit's ripening is getting closer and closer. I had that silly bird scout ahead. As he spoke, Li Mo's gaze remained fixed on Yun Ruoyan's face, and not even the slightest change in her expression could escape his gaze. As for Guan Ruliu, Li Mo continued, I sent the 2 students who've lost their cultivations out of the forest, so that she can come with us. Was that so? Yun Ruoyan lowered her head, her eyes darting around as she tried to think of a way to get past Li Mo. Yen, if you have any other questions I'll answer them one by one, Li Mo said unhurriedly. I only have one question and I hope you'll answer it truthfully. What is it? Ask away. Yun Ruoyan knew that it wouldn't be easy to get past Li Mo, so she raised her head and met his gaze. Why do I sense the ring's aura on you? Could it be that it's hidden within your body? Li Mo asked. I don't know. Yun Ruoyan answered without hesitation. She knew that the slightest hesitation would cause Li Mo to suspect her, but she had underestimated Li Mo's alertness. Li Mo called out Yun Ruoyan's name as he slowly said, if you had told me the truth from the start, I would have believed that you didn't know anything. But you've been avoiding the topic for so long and I'm even more certain of my guess. You're definitely hiding something from me. Chapter 267. Tell me, what are you hiding from me? Li Mo looked at Yun Ruoyan, his gaze sharper and sharper as if trying to figure out the answer to his question from her face. Li Mo wasn't one to pry too deeply, but Yun Ruoyan's current situation made him realize just how serious the matter was. That demonic ring had clearly disappeared, so why did its aura still linger on Yun Ruoyan's body, and why had it protected her at such a crucial moment? Combined with Yun Ruoyan's abnormal behavior in the demonic dragon burial mound, a troubling thought popped up in Li Mo's mind. Was Yun Ruoyan somehow related to the demonic dragons? Could she be the descendant of the demon dragon clan that possessed the bloodline of the demon dragon? Yun Ruoyan was silent for a long while. Li Mo, back in the capital, you once asked me if I had any secrets. Li Mo looked at Yun Ruoyan, waiting for her to continue. Yun Ruoyan paused. I didn't answer you then, but I can tell you now. I have secrets and more than one at that. But just as you said, I can't tell you, not even to my closest kin, at least not yet. Li Mo's dark eyes looked at Yun Ruoyan, and Yun Ruoyan met his gaze without the slightest hint of evasion. I thought that after all this time, you'd be able to trust me completely, Li Mo began. Of course I trust you. Yun Ruoyan grabbed Li Mo's hand. But Li Mo, there are some things that I haven't figured out yet. Can you give me the right to keep them a secret? I don't want you to be hurt, Yen. I know. Yun Ruoyan clutched Li Mo's hand tightly. As the two of them spoke, Zhou Yifeng returned. He was naturally delighted to see Yun Ruoyan awake. However, when he saw that Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo were holding hands and talking, he stood a short distance away. Zhou Yifeng, what did you find out? Yun Ruoyan had also seen Zhou Yifeng. She wanted to end her conversation with Li Mo, so she took the initiative to greet him. Zhou Yifeng was also curious about what had happened to Yun Ruoyan, but he didn't intend to ask any questions. You're awake? When did you wake up? Zhou Yifeng walked up to her and smiled. He just woke up, Yun Ruoyan replied. What did you find out? Zhou Yifeng's expression turned serious. This time, not only are there many low-level magical beasts, there are also some mid-level magical beasts. The closer they got to the center and the closer it was to the ripening date of the heavenly spirit fruit, the more the high-level magical beasts drove away the other magical beasts. The next day, Murphy returned to report to Li Mo that it had encountered 3 high-rank beasts, and that it wasn't sure if it would be able to defeat one of them. Hadn't reached the location of the Glories Will tree that Li Mo had mentioned, so Li Mo deduced that there were likely more than 3 magical beasts in the area. Yun Ruoyan wanted to continue onward, but the awakening of the One Ring had taken a huge toll on her. The group had no choice but to rest for another day and night. After a day and 2 nights of cultivation, Yun Ruoyan had finally recovered 80 to 90% of her spiritual energy. Originally, Li Mo had wanted to let her rest for another day, but Yun Ruoyan was in a rush to become a 7th-rank blade master, so she had to obtain the heavenly spirit fruit. When Yun Ruoyan suggested that they set off immediately, Li Mo didn't stop her. However, he suddenly suggested that the center of the forest was too dangerous, and that Zhou Yifeng and Guan Ruliu should remain on the outskirts of the forest. Then Zhou Yifeng and Yun Ruoyan flew toward the center of the forest. By nightfall, the two of them had finally reached the outskirts of the forest. In front of them was a bottomless canyon. That's the center of the forest, Li Mo said, pointing to the other side of the canyon. Although the canyon was deep, it wasn't very wide. As a 7th-rank blade master, Yun Ruoyan should be able to traverse it. Suddenly, the roar of a magical beast rang out. It came from far away, but its power didn't diminish in the slightest. Before the roar subsided, the earth shook and Yun Ruian and Li Mo saw a horde of wild beasts and magical beasts running out of the forest, scurrying across the canyon toward the outskirts of the forest. Amazing! Yun Ruian exclaimed. Don't worry, I'm here. Li Mo hugged Yun Ruian tightly in his arms as they continued toward the heart of the forest. Hid in Li Mo's loose hood as they followed the two of them into the heart of the forest. By then the sky was already dark, but the two of them didn't intend to rest. According to Li Mo's calculations, the heavenly spirit fruit would ripen in the next 2 or 3 days, and they had to reach the heavenly spirit fruit as soon as possible. Just as Emmer had said, Yun Ruian and Li Mo saw quite a few high-rank beasts along the way. Li Mo told her that the high-rank beasts in the forest were far superior to those on the Qinyuan continent. Not only were they larger in size, but their attacks were also twice as powerful. Even more frightening was the fact that some high-rank beasts were able to use external spiritual techniques. By midnight, the two of them finally reached the forest where the heavenly spirit fruit was. As they neared the forest, Yun Ruian sensed the auras of at least 3 powerful beasts. Li Mo brought Yun Ruian to a branch of a large tree, and suddenly Yun Ruian sensed one of the 3 auras heading in their direction. Yun Ruian looked toward Li Mo, who gestured for her to be silent, and the two of them retracted their auras. Thud, thud, thud. A massive tremor grew closer and closer, so intense that even the tree they were standing on began to shake. A beast with long jade-green fur walked out of the depths of the forest toward the two of them. What's that? Yun Ruian asked in an extremely soft voice. A slumber beast, Li Mo replied. As its name suggested, slumber beasts loved to sleep, and they preferred to sleep in damp places. The jade-green fur on its body was a result of its prolonged slumber. The slumber beast's signature move was its roar of spiritual energy, and the roar that had sounded when the two of them reached the edge of the forest had come from the slumber beast. Even the slumber beast has woken up? It looks like there are more beasts coveting the heavenly spirit fruit than I expected, Li Mo replied in a small voice. Shoo, it's coming. Yun Ruian watched as the slumber beast swayed its massive body all the way to the tree they were standing on, then rubbed its massive body against the trunk and began to itch. The trunk of the tree was swayed by the slumber beast, but the two of them stood motionless, deeply afraid that they would alert the slumber beast. If the slumber beast were to roar at them, Li Mo might be fine, but Yun Ruian might not be able to withstand it. Fortunately, the slumber beast didn't notice the two of them. After rubbing its itch, it lay down by the tree and fell asleep, snoring loudly. Why don't you rest here? I'll go in and take a look, Li Mo said. No need. Li Mo hurriedly grabbed her hand. I'll go with you. Li Mo led Yun Ruian toward the heavenly spirit fruit tree. About 15 minutes later, Li Mo and Yun Ruian once more stopped on the branch of a large tree. Look, that's the heavenly spirit fruit tree. Li Mo pointed at a strange plant not far from them. Yun Ruian looked in the direction Li Mo was pointing and finally saw the heavenly spirit fruit tree that Li Mo had been talking about. This heavenly spirit tree was completely beyond her wildest imaginations. It was a tree that constantly changed color. One moment it would be emerald green, the next it would be scarlet, and then it would turn into a jade tree that was as white as an ice sculpture. Just when Yun Ruian thought that it wouldn't change any further, it turned into a muddy yellow. In short, it was very strange. On the Qinyuan continent, this tree would be considered a tall tree, but compared to the giant trees around it, it was much smaller. At this moment, this small, ever-changing heavenly spirit fruit tree was surrounded by 3 high-rank beasts. These 3 high-level magical beasts stared unblinkingly at the heavenly spirit tree in the middle, as if even a fly wouldn't be able to escape their eyes and get close to the tree. Li Mo, why is this tree constantly changing colors? Yun Ruian asked Li Mo. Li Mo didn't answer Yun Ruian's question. Instead, his eyes were focused on the 3 beasts. When Yun Ruian saw that Li Mo wasn't responding to her question, she turned to look at him curiously. However, after a while she didn't notice anything out of the ordinary. Let's go, Li Mo said after observing for a while. Then he took Yun Ruian on his sword and left the area. They found a giant tree to rest on. As soon as the two of them landed on the ground, Yun Ruian repeated her doubts. Li Mo told her that the heavenly spirit fruit could only bear 2 fruits at a time, each of which had fire, wind, ice, and earth attributes. As a result, Whoever consumed it would benefit immensely no matter what type of cultivation technique they practiced. This was also the main reason why it attracted so many beasts. These 3 high-rank beasts all have powerful auras. Liemo, how confident are you that you'll be able to obtain the heavenly spirit fruit? Yun Ruoyan asked. While I was observing those 3 beasts, I discovered something, Liemo replied instead of answering Yun Ruoyan's question. What's that? Yun Ruoyan immediately asked. 2 of the 3 beasts seemed to be in a stalemate with the other. That's normal. They all want the heavenly spirit fruit, so it's only natural that they'd be in a stalemate. However, I didn't see 2 beasts in a stalemate. If I'm not wrong, that slumber beast was with the other 3 beasts, Liemo continued. There are 2 heavenly spirit fruits, so the 4 beasts are in a stalemate. When the heavenly spirit fruit ripens, there's bound to be a huge battle and we'll have a chance. If we can use some tricks to intensify the battle, our chances of victory will be even greater. What tricks? Yun Ruoyan's eyes lit up as she looked at Liemo. Chapter 268. Yun Ruoyan asked Liemo what method he would use to intensify the battle between the beasts. Bewitching powder, Liemo replied. Bewitching powder? Yun Ruoyan exclaimed in surprise. You mean to use it to confuse those 4 beasts? Yes, Liemo replied. If they fight in pairs, even if one of them loses, the other 2 won't be easy to deal with. Is it possible that both of them will be injured and then we'll be the ones to reap the benefits? Both of them might be injured, but we won't be the ones to reap the benefits. Liemo frowned. There are 4 high-rank beasts guarding the heavenly spirit fruit tree, and there must be other beasts nearby that are eyeing the fruit like we are, but they've been intimidated by the 4 beasts and don't dare to approach. Once both sides are injured, the rest of the beasts will surely rush over, and it'll be even more difficult for us to obtain the heavenly spirit fruit. After hearing Liemo's analysis, Yun Ruoyan agreed that it would be better to use the bewitching powder to confuse the 4 beasts. The problem, however, was that the bewitching powder she had on her was of a low grade, and it would only work on those with a lower cultivation than her. It wouldn't even work on those with a higher cultivation than her, let alone high-rank beasts. Yen. After hearing Yun Ruoyan's words, Liemo extended a hand to her. Lend me your pill cauldron as well as the bewitching flower seeds. I'll personally refine the bewitching potion we'll be using this time. Yun Ruoyan had 2 cauldrons in her pocket dimension. One was from Pei Zio's house and it was specifically used to refine pills. The other was from the market and it was specifically used to refine poisons. Yun Ruoyan took out the poison refining cauldron and handed it to Liemo, then took out a large portion of the bewitching flower seeds. As soon as Yun Ruoyan took out the bewitching flower seeds and who had been hiding in Liemo's hood, popped out, picked up one of the seeds and swallowed it whole. Greedy bird, Yun Ruoyan chuckled. She had hoped that Emo would be able to help, but Liemo told her that one of the 4 beasts, the slumber beast, was its opponent. Murphy's low growl could hypnotize magic beasts, but the sleeping beast's roar was enough to wake up all sleeping magic beasts. Murphy was useless against the sleeping beast. Mistress, not everyone has the opportunity to see the slaughtering king concoct pills. You have to learn from him, Xianxia reminded. Yun Ruoyan immediately focused on Liemo's every movement as he took the cauldron and the bewitched flower seed. Liemo's pill-making skills were far superior to Lin Zainan's, and the spiritual fire he released was also the purest. Furthermore, there was no delay or waste in the transformation of the spiritual fire's various colors. As Liemo concocted the pills, he explained the differences between concocting pills and poisons, as well as answering some of the questions that Yun Ruoyan posed. Although Yun Ruoyan had become Liemo's disciple, Liemo hadn't had many opportunities to teach her about cultivation and pill-making, much less about poisons. As a result, Yun Ruoyan treasured this opportunity very much. While Liemo was refining the bewildering powder, she studied and questioned him meticulously. By late at night, Liemo had finally refined enough of the bewildering powder. The 2 of them planned to begin refining the heavenly spirit fruit on the day it ripened, then began to rest and recuperate. 2 days later, Zhou Yifeng and Guan Ruliu arrived at the canyon at the edge of the central region. Without Liemo's help, the 2 of them encountered quite a few wild beasts along the way, including some low-rank and mid-rank beasts. However, with their cultivation and combat experience, They were able to kill most of them, and those that they couldn't kill were easily shaken off. Senior Guan, can you jump across this canyon? Yifeng asked Guan Ruliu. Guan Ruliu looked at the canyon, which was deep but not wide. In the past I could easily jump across it, but now that my cultivation hasn't recovered, I'm afraid I won't be able to. Zhou Yifeng looked at the other side of the canyon, frowning thoughtfully. Junior Zhou, you're not thinking of entering the central region, are you? Guan Ruliu guessed Zhou Yifeng's intentions from his expression. Master Imo told us to wait on the outskirts for him and Ruian to return. It's best if you don't take the risk on your own. Since I'm already here, I'll feel regretful if I don't explore the central region, and I don't want to leave any regrets behind. Zhou Yifeng took out a scroll from his pouch and handed it to Guan Ruliu. If you encounter any danger, use this to return to the treehouse. Where did you get this? Guan Ruliu asked curiously when she saw that Zhou Yifeng was holding a teleportation scroll in his hand. Zhou Yifeng replied, I got it from Song Yi and Sun Yan. This is for you, I have another one with me. Song Yi and Sun Yan's corpses had been buried by Zhou Yifeng, and these two scrolls had been left behind by him. In that case you must be careful. Use the scroll if you encounter any danger. Guan Ruliu saw that Zhou Yifeng had made up his mind. Alright. Zhou Yifeng nodded, then gathered spirit energy under his feet and rushed toward the canyon. When he reached the edge of the canyon he suddenly jumped up and his whole body soared above the canyon. Another wave of white spiritual energy rose from beneath his feet, sending him to the other side of the gorge. As soon as Li Emo landed, he glanced back at Guan Ruliu on the other side of the gorge, then quickly entered the forest. Yun Ruoyan and Li Emo had been waiting by the heavenly spirit tree for 2 days. During these 2 days the two of them would check on the tree from time to time. The heavenly spirit tree was still surrounded by the same 4 beasts, each taking turns to rest. It was as if they had made a pact not to attack the last beast while the other was resting. Yun Ruoyan asked Li Emo why the 4 beasts had been eyeing each other for so long, and why they had to wait until the heavenly spirit fruit was ripe before fighting each other over it. Li Emo told her that each of the 4 beasts had cultivated different elemental techniques, and that they were the more powerful of those techniques. Their presence would serve as a deterrent to the nearby beasts before the heavenly spirit fruit ripened. If 1 or 2 of them were to die before the fruit ripened, there would still be other beasts to fill the gap, which would only be more troublesome. Li Emo also said that the 4 beasts might have even been friends in the past. But even if they were friends, they would still abide by the terms of their agreement. Once the benefits were right in front of them, they wouldn't hesitate to kill. Night fell once more. After having some wild fruits for dinner, the two of them went to investigate the heavenly spirit fruit once more. Li Emo and Yun Ruoyan cautiously approached the heavenly spirit tree. Under the ever-changing canopy of the heavenly spirit fruit tree, Yun Ruoyan finally caught sight of the fruit. It was about the size of a fist, and like the tree itself, it was constantly changing color. When does the heavenly spirit fruit ripen? Yun Ruoyan asked. When it ripens, it will suddenly emit a strange fragrance, and it will automatically fall from the tree, Li Emo replied. Li Emo, look. Just as Yun Ruoyan was listening to Li Mo's words, she suddenly saw a beast with a sharp horn poking its head out of a nearby forest. As soon as Yun Ruoyan's voice fell, the 4 high-rank beasts spat out a gigantic fireball from their mouths, directly smashing into the head of the beast that was peeking out. Yun Ruoyan only heard a loud boom before the horned beast's entire head was scorched by the fireball. Ugh. The horned beast let out a pained howl before running away, shaking its flaming head. Whoosh. This time, the green-scaled high-rank magical beast spat out an icicle as thick as a small tree trunk, piercing through the head of another magical beast that Yun Ruoyan hadn't noticed. The mountain-sized beast died on the spot. Impressive. Yun Ruoyan couldn't help but exclaim. Just as Yun Ruoyan shifted her gaze away from the fleeing beast, a strange fragrance assaulted her senses. It was even more fragrant than anything Yun Ruoyan had ever tasted or smelled before. Moreover, it wasn't a strong aroma, but an indescribable, refreshing fragrance. Yun Ruoyan immediately turned to Li Emo, only to see a hint of delight on his solemn face. He glanced at Yun Ruoyan, then quickly turned to the heavenly spirit tree and the 4 beasts surrounding it. The 4 magical beasts were all attracted by this strange fragrance. They squinted their eyes and looked like they were enjoying it very much. The heavenly spirit fruit has ripened. Let's begin. Yes. Yun Ruoyan immediately responded. A green sword aura appeared beneath Li Mo's feet, and he rushed toward the heavenly spirit tree without hesitation. 2 fist-sized heavenly spirit fruits fell to the ground, and the strange fragrance immediately disappeared. The 4 magical beasts recovered from the aroma of the heavenly spirit fruit. Their eyes greedily scanned the 2 fruits on the ground, which were still glowing with various colors, and they bared their sharp fangs at the same time. Then they approached the 2 beasts opposite them in pairs, and a fierce battle was about to unfold. At this time, Li Mo and Yun Ruoyan had also stopped a few feet away from the heavenly spirit tree. The 2 of them used their short human bodies to hide behind the glories will fruit tree quietly. Yun Ruoyan poked her head out from behind the heavenly spirit tree. Before the 4 beasts had begun their battle, the auras of many powerful beasts had suddenly appeared in the surrounding forest. Yun Ruoyan scanned the area and saw more than 10 pairs of green eyes flickering in and out of sight. Just as Li Mo had said, if the 4 beasts were to fight to the point where all 4 of them were injured, the other beasts hidden in the forest would charge forward and engage in a chaotic battle. By then, no matter how powerful Li Mo was, he wouldn't be able to snatch the heavenly spirit fruit from so many beasts and escape with her. Chapter 269. The 2 heavenly spirit fruits lay no more than 30 feet away from her, and the 4 high-rank beasts were baring their fangs at one another, completely oblivious to their presence. Yun Ruoyan took a step in the direction of the heavenly spirit fruit. What are you doing? Yun Ruoyan crouched down trying to sneak around. Li Mo grabbed the heavenly spirit fruit without anyone noticing, but Li Mo pulled her back. I want to steal the heavenly spirit fruit, Yun Ruoyan replied honestly. So many pairs of eyes are on the heavenly spirit fruit. As soon as you touch it, the beasts will roar and the 4 beasts will pounce on you, Li Mo said solemnly. Don't be in such a rush. Wait and see. At this moment, the 4 magical beasts were in a stalemate, not giving way at all. Instead, their battle intent was growing stronger and stronger. Finally, the green-furred sleeping beast roared at the red-furred magical beast that could spit fire and the green-scaled magical beast that could spit icicles. This was the first time Yun Ruoyan had felt its roar from such a close distance. The first time had been at the edge of the valley, where a single roar had driven a large number of wild beasts and high-rank beasts out of its territory. Yun Ruoyan felt as though the roar was earth-shattering. Fortunately, Li Mo had blocked her ears in time, or she might have fainted from the impact. The slumber beast's roar caused 7 or 8 of the dozen pairs of green eyes to disappear, while the rest quickly disappeared. The 2 high-level magical beasts opposite the slumbering beast were shaking their heads non-stop. Seemed like they were also shaken to the core. At this moment, the yellow magical beast with a bald head charged towards the red-furred magical beast and slammed into its stomach. Bang! The red-furred magical beast was instantly sent flying, crashing heavily into a huge tree. Crack! 2 of the trees were directly crushed by the red-furred magical beast's enormous body. The red-furred beast landed on the ground and spat out a mouthful of bright red blood. When the blood splattered onto the vegetation actually burst into flames. Why is its blood on fire? Yun Ruoyan asked in shock. This yellow-furred magical beast cultivates earth elemental spirit energy, so its attack power is very shocking. It actually caused a crack in the spiritual sea of the red-furred magical beast that cultivates fire elemental spirit energy, causing the fire elemental spirit energy to leak out. Even his spiritual sea was cracked by the impact. This was the first time Yun Ruoyan had heard of such a thing, and she was quite surprised. When the green-scaled magical beast saw this, it spat out a large icicle at the yellow-furred magical beast. The yellow-furred magical beast dodged 2 of the icicles, but the 3rd icicle finally hit its body. All Yun Ruoyan heard was the sound of metal shattering as the icicle shattered, leaving a long gash on the yellow-furred beast's thigh. Seeing that its companion was injured, the slumbering beast let out another roar. However, this roar was much weaker than the first one. Every time the slumbering beast roared, it would expend spiritual energy, so its roars would become weaker and weaker. In fact, if it roared continuously for a short period of time, it would eventually lose all of its power. The green-scaled magical beast was only slightly dazed by the slumbering beast's roar, but it quickly regained consciousness and shot an icicle at the slumbering beast. The slumbering beast's body was clumsy and it wasn't good at dodging. The icicle pierced its thigh and its massive body fell heavily to the ground. Seeing this, the yellow-furred magical beast endured its injuries and, while the slumbering beast wasn't paying attention, slammed into its back once more. Bang! The slumbering beast suffered the same fate as the red-furred magical beast and was sent flying. It landed heavily on the ground, breaking several large trees in its wake. When it landed, the slumbering beast also spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. This time, when the blood touched the ground, it immediately formed a thin layer of ice. Clearly, the yellow-furred magical beast's violent collision had also caused cracks to appear in its spiritual sea. This time, the 4 high-level magical beasts were all defeated and injured. At this moment, a dozen pairs of red magical beast eyes suddenly appeared around the perverted forest. Just like Yun Ruoyan and Liemo, they were also waiting for an opportunity. All of the beasts around us seem eager to try. Why don't we wait a little longer? Before Yun Ruoyan could finish, Liemo interrupted her. Before we're completely confident if there's a chance that we can avoid danger and achieve our goal, then we'll have to be patient. Yun Ruoyan nodded and calmed herself down to observe the situation with Liemo. By this time the other 4 beasts had all collapsed to the ground. Only the yellow-furred magical beast was the least injured. Its golden eyes scanned its surroundings and all the red eyes immediately retreated. The yellow-furred magical beast glanced at the slumbering beast, who nodded back at it. The yellow-furred magical beast slowly walked toward the 2 heavenly spirit fruits. Although Yun Ruoyan was a relatively calm person, she couldn't help but panic when she saw that the heavenly spirit fruits were about to fall into someone else's hands. This yellow-furred magical beast is very powerful, Liemo told Yun Ruoyan. Not only is it fast, but it's also powerful enough to shatter a magical beast's spiritual vortex, so it's best not to fight it head-on. Silly bird, come out. Liemo turned to Yun Ruoyan. A mufo which had been nestled in Liemo's hood reluctantly stuck its head out. Immerse's nemesis was the slumbering beast, which had been so frightened by its roar that it had to hide in Liemo's hood. Now that its master was calling for it, it had no choice but to stick its head out. This is a bewitching powder. Use it on the yellow-furred magical beast. Liemo handed Emo a specially made cloth pouch. Although Emo's voice had a hypnotic effect, its cultivation was still much lower than that of the 4 high-rank beasts. Moreover, the slumbering beast was also present, so Emo's hypnotic abilities were ineffective. However, its petite form and nimble flight speed were still of some help to Liemo. Hesitated for a moment, its beady eyes glancing at the injured slumbering beast on the ground in the distance. Only then did it emerge from Liemo's hood. Picked up the pouch and flew toward the yellow-furred beast. Yun Ruoyan and Liemo's gazes followed it. Held the pouch in its mouth all the way to the yellow-furred beast. The yellow-furred beast saw it, but it didn't seem to mind. Instead it let out a low warning growl. On the other hand, pecked open the pouch and sprinkled the colorless, odorless powder on the yellow-furred beast's head. The yellow-furred beast felt an itch at the tip of its nose, and it sneezed loudly, sucking in even more of the bewitching powder. Because it had its back to the other beasts, none of them noticed what had happened. Seeing that it had accomplished its mission, cleverly flew back to Liemo and Yun Ruoyan's side to watch the yellow-furred beast with its 2 masters. After inhaling the bewitching powder that Liemo had concocted specifically for them, the yellow-furred beast began to feel a little dizzy. We can show ourselves now. Only then did Liemo take Yun Ruoyan's hand and lead her out from behind the heavenly spirit fruit tree. The heavenly spirit fruit tree no longer glowed when the fruits fell to the ground, so the 2 of them walked out from a patch of darkness. Most of the beasts present had night vision, so even though they were in complete darkness, the 2 of them were still seen by many of the beasts present. Immediately, a large number of magical beasts' gazes appeared in the forest. These gazes weren't just red, there were also green and yellow gazes. Without exception, all of those gazes landed on Yun Ruoyan and Liemo. Liemo dragged Yun Ruoyan toward the 2 heavenly spirit fruits at an unhurried pace, but without the slightest pause. The slumbering beast, the scaled beast, and the red-furred beast all crawled up from the ground and growled at Yun Ruoyan and Liemo in warning. Liemo and Yun Ruoyan released their auras as soon as they walked out of the forest. Liemo was a peak 9th rank blade master, and Yun Ruoyan was a peak 7th rank blade master. When the 2 of them released their auras at the same time, They were able to intimidate the low-ranked magical beasts and a few mid-ranked magical beasts. Even the 3 injured high-level magical beasts did not immediately attack the 2 of them. The slumbering beast growled and Immortal, which had been perched on Li Mo's shoulder, immediately burrowed back into his hood. Then following the slumbering beast, the other 2 high-rank beasts growled as well. Mistress, these 3 high-rank beasts are ordering the surrounding beasts to attack you. Qiuqiu's voice rang out in Yun Ruoyan's mind. Not long after Qiuqiu's words, the surrounding low-rank and mid-rank beasts began to emerge from the forest and surround Yun Ruoyan and Yun Ruoyan. Yun Ruoyan had already taken out her spirit steel dagger, ready to fight, but Li Mo appeared as relaxed as ever. Suddenly, a red-eyed wolf pounced at the 2 of them. Yun Ruoyan raised her dagger and prepared to face it head-on, but Li Mo pulled her into his embrace and dashed to the side. Before the 2 of them had even landed on the ground, Yun Ruoyan heard a loud bang. The yellow-furred beast had slammed into the wolf's body. The wolf's waist had been snapped in an instant, and by the time it hit the ground, it was already dead. The yellow-furred beast stood in front of Li Mo and Yun Ruoyan, acting as their bodyguard. The other beasts didn't dare approach. The yellow-skinned magical beast that had been hit by the bewitching powder was in a stalemate with the other magical beasts. Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo arrived effortlessly at the spot where the heavenly spirit fruit had fallen. Li Mo bent down and picked up a fist-sized heavenly spirit fruit that glowed with multicolored light. Yun Ruoyan reached out for the other heavenly spirit fruit, but just then something strange happened. A small black creature with sharp teeth and a long nose, a nose that Yun Ruoyan couldn't name, suddenly burrowed out of the soil beside the heavenly spirit fruit and grabbed it before Yun Ruoyan could. Ah! Yun Ruoyan cried out and hurriedly tried to snatch the fruit back, but the creature plunged headfirst into the soil and disappeared without a trace. Chapter 270. When Yun Ruoyan saw that the beast had burrowed into the ground with the heavenly spirit fruit, she quickly pulled out her dagger and began digging at the spot where it had burrowed. That's a burrowing rat and it can burrow into the ground like it's walking on flat ground. There's no way to chase it back, Li Mo explained to Yun Ruoyan before pulling her up. By this time the other 3 high-rank beasts had also noticed the yellow-skinned beast's abnormality. Although they were all heavily injured, they still struggled to their feet and formed a standoff with the yellow-skinned beast. In the dark forest behind the 3 high-level magical beasts, the number of twinkling magical beast eyes quickly increased from the previous dozen or 20 pairs to an uncountable number of hundreds. We have to think of a way to escape. I'm afraid the yellow-skinned beast won't be able to withstand the attacks of so many beasts, Li Mo said, before handing the heavenly spirit fruit to Yun Ruoyan. Yun Ruoyan took the heavenly spirit fruit and stored it in her bracelet. At this moment the 3 magical beasts let out low roars. Along with these low roars, the low-ranked magical beasts behind them walked out of the forest. Among them were a large number of wolves, as well as the fiery-maned hounds and saber-toothed tigers that Yun Ruoyan had seen before. Roar, roar, the 3 beasts howled in unison, and 7 or 8 wolves pounced at the yellow-skinned beast Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo at the same time. The yellow-furred beast stood in front of Li Mo and Yun Ruoyan like a wall. When the 7 or 8 wolves slammed into its body, 3 were bounced back, 2 were smacked to death, and 3 managed to bite into its body. The excruciating pain caused the yellow-skinned beast to howl in pain, and more beasts pounced on it. Enduring the pain, the yellow-skinned beast began to fight with the beasts. No matter how strong the yellow-skinned beast was, it wouldn't be able to withstand the simultaneous attacks of so many beasts, and it didn't look like it would be able to hold out for long. When Li Mo saw this, a green sword aura appeared beneath his feet, and he prepared to leave with Yun Ruoyan. Li Mo, look. Yun Ruoyan pointed at the branch of a large tree in front of them. Using her night vision she could see a large ape squatting on the branch. The ape bared its fangs at her and Li Mo, its blood-red eyes staring at her without blinking. As soon as Yun Ruoyan pointed at the ape, it pounced at her. Yun Ruoyan immediately raised her dagger in front of her, assuming a defensive stance. However, Li Mo seemed to have been prepared for this. Even at such a close distance he dodged the attack. What kind of magical beast is this? Why haven't I sensed its presence in the last 2 days? Yun Ruoyan asked Li Mo. They have always been there. But because they're only wild monkeys, their spiritual energy cultivation is much lower than that of most low-rank beasts, so it's hard to notice them unless you know them well. But even without spiritual power, these wild monkeys are quite difficult to deal with in the giant forest. Sometimes they are even harder to deal with than magical beasts. Why? Because there are so many of them, and once they identify a target, all of them will work together to accomplish it without regard for their own lives. That's why they're so difficult to deal with. Look around you. By this time Yun Ruian had arrived behind Liemo. She held tightly to his waist to maintain her balance as she surveyed her surroundings. Yun Ruian could see that, at some point, there had been a large number of wild monkeys hiding in the trees. Some of them were clinging to the trunks, some were squatting in the branches, some were hanging upside down, and some were hiding in the treetops. It was as if they had surrounded Liemo and Yun Ruian. Liemo held Yun Ruian in midair, as if the slightest movement would cause the monkeys to pounce on them and tear them to shreds. Yan, are you ready? Liemo asked softly. Yes. Yun Ruian replied softly. Liemo suddenly moved. He directed the sword light toward the sky. Yun Ruian saw countless monkeys pouncing toward the two of them like rain. Yun Ruian's dark steel dagger danced in the air. On the other hand, Liemo controlled his sword as he released fireballs and icicles to deal with the monkeys that pounced on them. All Yun Ruian could hear was the screams and howls of the monkeys filling her ears. Just as the two of them were about to break through the treetops and reach the top of the forest, they encountered a large group of wild monkeys pulling and biting each other's tails to form a large net that blocked their way. Liemo didn't seem to have any intention of stopping. He turned to Immortal, who was still in his hood. "Silly bird, if you're not dead, come out and help us." Then Yun Ruian saw poke its head out of Liemo's hood, spread its wings and charge forward. As it charged upward, Emo's body suddenly expanded. From a small beast no larger than a sparrow, it suddenly transformed into a flying beast that was many times larger than an eagle. Yun Ruian watched as Immortal extended its wings and charged toward the large net of monkeys in front of her and Liemo. Those monkeys were very strong, and even with Immortal's momentum, they didn't seem to have any intention of retreating. However, didn't intend to fight them head-on. Just as it was about to reach the monkeys, Yun Ruian suddenly heard a low, familiar moan. The demonic moan caused Yun Ruian's head to spin, and her body was about to fall. Fortunately, Liemo caught her in time and wrapped his arm around her waist, pulling her into his embrace. The monkeys, on the other hand, were knocked unconscious by Immortal's moan, and one by one they began to fall to the ground. Liemo and Yun Ruian finally managed to escape from the giant forest with Immortal's help. At the same time that the two of them emerged, a roar came from the ground. Yun Ruian felt as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over her head. The slumber beast had let out a full-throated roar when it saw the two of them escape. Frightened, Emma's massive body instantly shrunk, returning to its sparrow-sized form before burrowing back into Liemo's hood. This was the first time that Yun Ruian had seen Immortal's transformed form, and she had been quite shocked. Now that Immortal had returned with its tail between its legs, she couldn't help but laugh. Even as she breathed a sigh of relief, she couldn't help but sigh. There's always a counter to everything. By then the sky was already bright and the two of them were flying through the giant forest. Yun Ruian took out the heavenly spirit fruit, sighing at how difficult it had been to obtain it. The heavenly spirit fruit has to be consumed within 24 hours for it to be most effective, Liemo instructed. Let's find a quiet place for you to consume it and help you break through. Less than a kilometer away from the heavenly spirit tree, Zhou Yifeng darted through the forest toward the heavenly spirit fruit tree. Zhou Yifeng hadn't slept at all last night. He had been on his way the whole time. Although he didn't know about the heavenly spirit fruit, the loud noises and the beasts that had been escaping from that direction for the past few days told him that something unusual was going on. What's more, Zhou Yifeng was certain that both Yun Ruian and Liemo were in that area. But by the time Zhou Yifeng arrived, all that was left was a messy battlefield littered with the corpses of many magical beasts. Apart from that, there was nothing special about it. Zhou Yifeng searched among the corpses. Although he didn't find anything special, he did find quite a few mid-rank beast cores. What surprised Zhou Yifeng even more was that he had obtained a high-rank earth elemental beast core. Just for that core, Zhou Yifeng's trip to the Heartland hadn't been in vain. After his bountiful harvest, Zhou Yifeng began heading back. At the same time, Li Mo and Yun Ruian were looking for a suitable place to cultivate. Li Mo brought Yun Ruian to a stop on the trunk of a giant tree. This tree was much thicker than the surrounding trees, and it would take at least 10 people to completely surround it. About 10 feet above the ground, there was a hole in the tree that was as tall as a grown man. The two of them stopped in front of the hole and chirped cheerfully before flying into it. Li Mo and Yun Ruian glanced at each other before following suit. So this was Immerse's home. When Li Mo brought Yun Ruian to look for a suitable place, immediately brought the two of them to its own home. The two of them followed into the hole. The hole was spacious enough to fit 7 or 8 people, and it was rather clean. It seemed that was quite hygienic. Hey Li Mo, what's that? As Yun Ruian observed her surroundings, she noticed that there were a few bones scattered in a corner of the hole, and they were all rather thick. Yun Ruian walked over and picked up what looked like a leg bone. Just as she was about to mock for having a fetish for collecting the bones of its prey, Li Mo explained, "These are the bones of an adult bewitching bird, probably left behind by Emo's parents." When Yun Ruian heard this, she respectfully placed the bone back in its original position. Come here." Li Mo took Yun Ruian's hand and led her to another corner of the hole. There were some soft leaves and fur there, most likely Immerse's resting spot. After circled the tree once, Yun Ruian gave it a bewitching flower seed. After eating it, it obediently stopped at a spot to rest. This place is very suitable for cultivation. Li Mo pulled her to sit on the soft furry leaves. There's no time to lose. Why don't you eat the heavenly spirit fruit now? All right, Yun Ruian replied, then took out the heavenly spirit fruit from her pocket dimension. In Yun Ruian's hands, the heavenly spirit fruit glowed with a dazzling multicolored light. "Mistress, if you manage to break through this time, you can help me break through as well," Qiu said in Yun Ruian's head. Chapter 272. This. Zhou Yifeng handed over the dagger that he'd used to threaten the ground rat. The ground rat glanced at it but refused. "Use that." The ground rat pointed at the tiger canine arrowhead on Zhou Yifeng's back. Zhou Yifeng's tiger canine arrowheads were almost all used up, and there were only 3 left in his quiver. "Your arrowhead looks unusual, so it must be very sharp." "Use it," the ground rat said. Zhou Yifeng pulled out an arrow and pried open the shell of the heavenly spirit fruit as the ground rat had instructed. A 5-colored pill was revealed. "Eat this and it'll help you advance your cultivation," the ground rat hurriedly instructed. Zhou Yifeng looked at the pill in his hand and felt the spiritual energy it contained. Finally, a smile appeared on his face. Zhou Yifeng stood up with the pill in one hand and the ground rat in the other. "Hey, let me go," the ground rat cried out. Zhou Yifeng let go and the ground rat fell to the ground. It cried out in pain and scrambled back into the ground, disappearing into the ground in the blink of an eye. With the pill in his hand, Zhou Yifeng found a secluded spot, ate the pill and began to cultivate. What he cultivated was a wood-attuned external spiritual technique. After consuming the heavenly spirit fruit, wood-attuned spiritual energy began to flow through his limbs and meridians. Zhou Yifeng's cultivation took 4 to 5 days. 5 days later he encountered the same situation as Yun Ruian. Wood-attuned spiritual energy was constantly being produced, but there wasn't enough space in his spiritual vortex. If he didn't gather all the spiritual energy in his body into his spiritual vortex, his body wouldn't be able to bear it. If he gathered all the spiritual energy into his spiritual vortex wouldn't be able to bear it. Because he didn't have a technique to condense spiritual energy, Zhou Yifeng was in danger of going berserk. "Haha, this is the price you'll have to pay for attacking me." Suddenly the ground rat burrowed out of the ground and laughed arrogantly at Zhou Yifeng. The ground rat had been following Zhou Yifeng this entire time, waiting for him to go berserk so that it could reap the benefits. As it turned out, the gopher spirit was born with a handicap and was unable to cultivate on its own to obtain spiritual energy, so it cultivated a special technique. This technique allowed it to absorb spiritual energy from others, so even if it stole the heavenly spirit fruit, it wouldn't be able to consume it. Just as the ground rat spirit was fretting over how to use the heavenly spirit fruit, Zhou Yifeng appeared. As such, the ground rat spirit had decided to make Zhou Yifeng his cultivation vessel, feed him the heavenly spirit fruit, and then ambush him while he was cultivating to absorb his spiritual energy. Just as it was looking for an opportunity to strike, Zhou Yifeng's cultivation suddenly went berserk. The ground rat spirit couldn't help but cry out, "The heavens are helping me. What do you want to do?" Zhou Yifeng opened his eyes and looked at the ground rat spirit ground rat. However, the spirit energy in his body and spiritual sea continued to surge, causing his face to flicker between white and green. Although he held a bow in his hand, he didn't even have the strength to draw it. Although his body and spiritual sea were filled with spiritual power, he couldn't use any of his techniques. Zhou Yifeng could only watch as the ground rat spirit arrogantly approached him. "Since you're in so much pain, I'll help you end it." After saying that, the ground rat spirit's small body suddenly shot forward and landed on Zhou Yifeng's back. Like a pancake, it stuck to Zhou Yifeng's back and began to absorb Zhou Yifeng's spiritual energy. Zhou Yifeng struggled at first, but as the ground rat absorbed the spiritual energy in his body, the spiritual energy in Zhou Yifeng's body was released. Thus he stopped struggling and allowed the ground rat to absorb. The heavenly spirit fruit continued to generate spiritual energy in Zhou Yifeng's body, while the ground rat spirit ground rat continued to absorb the spiritual energy in his body. This caused the spiritual energy in Zhou Yifeng's body to reach a miraculous equilibrium. In the blink of an eye, 5 days had passed. The ground rat spirit ground rat's body was already brimming with spiritual energy, but when it tried to leave Zhou Yifeng's body, it found that it was impossible. The spiritual energy began to flow into the ground rat spirit ground rat's body as if it were an exit. The ground rat spirit ground rat struggled with all its might for 2 days and 2 nights, but it still couldn't escape. Just as it was on the verge of death, it opened its mouth to talk to Zhou Yifeng. "Sir, if this continues, we'll both die," it said. "Little bastard, you've caused me so much trouble," Zhou Yifeng said. "I never thought that I, Zhou Yifeng, would die at the hands of a little bastard like you." "Sir, I have a way that might save both of us," the ground rat spirit ground rat said. "What is it?" Zhou Yifeng asked. He still had many things to do. If he didn't have to die, he would do his best to survive. "I'll teach you the only technique I know. Use it to transfer the excess spiritual energy in your body to someone else," the ground rat spirit ground rat said. "After you learn it, go to the forest and catch any magical beast you can and transfer the spiritual energy in your body to it. Although the heavenly spirit fruit produces a lot of spiritual energy, there's still a limit. As long as we can hold on until the heavenly spirit fruit runs out of spiritual energy, we'll be able to survive." Both of them were in dire straits. Zhou Yifeng had no other choice but to agree to the ground rat spirit ground rat's suggestion. The ground rat spirit ground rat immediately taught Zhou Yifeng the technique that allowed him to absorb and transfer spiritual energy from others. Zhou Yifeng stumbled out of his hiding place, his body brimming with spiritual energy. After taking a few steps, he collapsed to the ground, unable to get up. However, the spiritual energy in his body had attracted the attention of a hunting demon wolf nearby. The demon wolf slowly approached Zhou Yifeng. "Wake up, sir, wake up." The ground rat sensed danger and bit Zhou Yifeng's shoulder. Zhou Yifeng woke up from the pain. He turned around and saw the head of a giant demon wolf in front of him. Without a word, Zhou Yifeng reached out without warning and placed his palm on the demon wolf's head. Circulating the technique, he transferred a large amount of spiritual energy to the demon wolf. The demon wolf was shocked at first, then felt a large amount of spiritual energy flow from the human in front of it into its own body. Although it didn't understand what was happening, it enjoyed this effortless flow of spiritual energy. In the end, it sat down. On the way back, Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo saw Guan Ruliu, who was still waiting for them, and Zhou Yifeng by the canyon. Guan Ruliu informed the two of Zhou Yifeng's situation in the hinterlands. Without any delay, the two immediately returned to the hinterlands to search for Zhou Yifeng. After 2 days and 2 nights of searching, the two finally found Zhou Yifeng in the depths of the hinterlands. When Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo found Zhou Yifeng, he was still unconscious. Beside him lay a demonic wolf that had been killed by spiritual energy, and a hamster spirit that they couldn't get rid of was clinging to him. "Li Mo, what's wrong with Zhou Yifeng?" Yun Ruoyan asked anxiously. Li Mo looked at Zhou Yifeng, then at the ground rat spirit ground rat. He also consumed a heavenly spirit fruit, but he didn't have an expert to protect him, nor did he know how to condense spiritual energy. As a result, he suffered a cultivation deviation. Liemo explained. Cultivation deviation? Yun Ruoyan exclaimed. Cultivation deviation was a very dangerous thing to do. Can he be saved, Liemo? Can you save him? I don't know how he survived, but since I'm here I can't let him die. Liemo replied. Zhou Yifeng was deep in slumber when he suddenly felt a surge of mental energy barge into his mind, calling out to him incessantly. Zhou Yifeng, wake up, wake up. Who are you? Zhou Yifeng asked. Instead of answering his question, the voice continued. You have a large amount of spiritual energy in your body, and I'm going to teach you a technique to condense spiritual energy to aid you in breaking through. The voice immediately began to teach him a technique to condense spiritual energy. Zhou Yifeng began to cultivate in his half-conscious state. He didn't know how much time had passed, but he finally managed to gather all the spiritual energy in his body into his spiritual vortex, successfully advancing from a 7th-rank Blade Master to an 8th-rank Blade Master. Brother Zhou. A familiar voice rang out by his ear, and Zhou Yifeng opened his eyes to see an excited face. Brother Zhou, you're finally awake. Her round, adorable face was still streaked with tears. Xianxia, why are you here? Yifei asked in surprise. Where am I? Zhou Yifeng's memory was still stuck in the forest of giant trees, where the impact of the demonic wolf's explosion had caused him to pass out. This is the Central College, your own room. Lin Xianxia helped him up. My own room. Zhou Yifeng looked around. Sure enough, the furnishings and environment were familiar. This was none other than his room. Why am I lying in my own room? Wasn't I supposed to continue my training in a different dimension? Zhou Yifeng's memory was broken and he was confused. As a result, Lin Xianxia told Zhou Yifeng in detail how Yun Ruoyan and Liemo had brought him back, as well as how he had been bedridden for 2 to 3 days. Only then did Zhou Yifeng realize that he had been saved by Yun Ruoyan and Liemo. He recalled the voice in his head that had called itself, this king. It was none other than the slaughtering king, Liemo. He was the one who saved me. Yifeng thought to himself. Brother Zhou, what's wrong? You look so pale. I'll go find a doctor to take a look at you. Just as Lin Xianxia was about to leave, Zhou Yifeng grabbed her and asked, Where are Yun Ruoyan and Master Imo? In the main hall. Lin Xianxia revealed a worried expression. Guan Tianyu of the Northern College is dead. Rong Yueshan and the others insist that it was Sister Ruoyan who killed him, and the second elder is making things difficult for the Southern College, demanding that Sister Ruoyan pay with her life. What? Guan Tianyu's dead? Zhou Yifeng sat up on the bed. That's right, and the Northern College has even accused you of being the murderer, Lin Xianxia replied. Chapter 273. All 6 elders were present in the Great Hall. The first elder sat at the head of the table, while the other 5 sat on either side of him. The executors sat on either side while Liemo sat on the right. In the middle of the hall stood 5 people, Yun Ruoyan and Guan Ruliu. Beside them Rong Yueshan, Yi Qianying and Pei Zio stood together. The facts are clear for all to see. The second elder's face was extremely ugly, and as he spoke he glared fiercely at Yun Ruoyan, as if he couldn't wait to tear Yun Ruoyan into pieces. Yun Ruoyan killed Guan Tianyu, and I'll make her pay with her life. Second elder, the matter is still under investigation and we can't come to a conclusion just yet, the first elder replied. What's there to investigate? Rong Yueshan, Yi Qianying and Pei Zio all saw it with their own eyes. Are you trying to cover up for a murderer? The second elder stood up from his seat. Second elder. Liemo stood up from his seat. May I ask who told you that Yun Ruoyan was Guan Tianyu's murderer? Liemo's gaze swept across Rong Yueshan's group of 3. The 3 of us reported it to the second elder, Rong Yueshan said, stepping forward. Senior brother Guan was killed by Yun Ruoyan. You're slandering us. Guan Ruliu couldn't help but speak up. When the 4 of you separated from us, Guan Tianyu was clearly alive and well. Moreover, the 4 of you had left the giant tree forest before us. No one knows what happened between us except the 4 of you. Senior Sister Guan, what do you mean? Yi Qianying looked at Guan Ruliu. Are you implying that the 3 of us killed senior brother Guan and framed Yun Ruoyan for it? Guan Ruliu frowned. I didn't say that, but if you had encountered a powerful magical beast along the way, it wouldn't have been impossible for you to abandon Guan Tianyu and escape on your own. Otherwise, why would your corpse be in such a horrible state? Behind Rong Yueshan's group of 3 was a stretcher, and on it was a corpse covered with a white cloth. It was Guan Tianyu. Although the white cloth hadn't been removed, the blood on it was clear how badly the corpse had been damaged. Senior brother Guan's corpse was only destroyed after his death. Pei Zhou said in a low voice, "It's true that we failed to protect the body, but the tree house was suddenly attacked by a large number of wild beasts. The 3 of us fought with all our might but were still injured, not to mention senior brother Guan who had already lost his life." "That's just your opinion. Perhaps Guan Tianyu was killed by a wild beast. It's truly your fault for failing to protect him," Guan Ruliu said. "Senior brother Guan clearly died from his injuries in a fight with Yun Ruoyan, and then we ran into danger in the treehouse. Senior sister Guan, are you trying to distort the truth?" Rong Yueshan shouted at Guan Ruliu. "That's enough." The great elder patted the armrest of his seat, and everyone in the main hall immediately quietened down. "Send 1 person from each side and tell us what happened in detail." Thus, Rong Yueshan told him everything that had happened. As the target of the accusation, it wasn't convenient for Yun Ruoyan to speak, so Guan Ruliu explained the situation. Both sides' accounts were roughly the same. Yun Ruoyan had killed Song Yi and Sun Yan and severely injured Guan Tianyu, blinding him. Then Li Mo arrived and Rong Yueshan's Sun Yan and Guan Tianyu were ordered back to the treehouse. However, both sides focused on different points of view. Rong Yueshan emphasized that Yun Ruoyan had killed Song Yi and Sun Yan, and had severely injured Guan Tianyu. Guan Ruliu, on the other hand, emphasized that Yun Ruoyan had attacked first, and that Yun Ruoyan had only acted in self-defense. "I saw it with my own eyes. When the 4 of them left, Guan Tianyu's eyes were only injured, not his body, much less his death," Guan Ruliu concluded. "But my grandson, the only descendant of the Guan family, died so tragically. Someone has to pay the price." As he spoke, the second elder continued to glare at Yun Ruoyan viciously. Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo glanced at each other. Neither of them explained much because both of them felt that something was amiss. When they had arrived at the treehouse in the forest, Rong Yueshan and the others had been attacked by a horde of beasts and low-rank magical beasts, and Guan Tianyu had already died. The 3 elders had said that Guan Tianyu had died at the hands of magical beasts, and Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo hadn't paid much attention to it. However, when Li Mo gathered all of the students back at Kongming Academy and met with the second elder, the 3 elders all changed their story, saying that Guan Tianyu had been killed by Yun Ruoyan first, and that his corpse had been attacked by magical beasts. To Yun Ruoyan and the others this was clearly slander, but to those who weren't in the know, it was a well-founded story. What Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo were confused about was why a horde of magical beasts had suddenly attacked the treehouse. The treehouse had been built about 70 to 80 feet above the ground, so the beasts couldn't climb up. Instead, they used their teeth and their bodies to ram into the treehouse, breaking a few of the treehouse's branches. Why would the beasts and low-rank magical beasts suddenly attack Rong Yueshan and the others? Second elder, even if you want to seek justice for your grandson, you have to find out the truth first, don't you? The 6th elder interjected. No matter how anxious you are, you can't accuse the innocent, can you? Yun Ruoyan had saved Zhou Yifeng from the Central College, and the 6th elder was very grateful to Yun Ruoyan. As a result, he spoke on her behalf. What do you mean? The 2nd elder pointed at the 6th elder. Are you saying that I've wronged Yun Ruoyan? I think that's possible. The 6th elder didn't seem the least bit intimidated by the angry and hurt 2nd elder. The 2nd elder's eyes bulged. So what if I've wronged her? Today I'll punish Yun Ruoyan so that my grandson can rest in peace. 2nd elder. Li Mo suddenly interjected. Give me a day's time and I'll definitely find the culprit and give you an explanation. If you don't agree, it won't be easy for you to touch my disciple. Li Mo and the 2nd elder stared at each other for a long time, neither side willing to budge. All right, that's settled. The 1st elder intervened. Give Li Mo and Yun Ruoyan a day and a night to prove their innocence. The 2nd elder had no choice but to compromise. If you can't prove your innocence after a day and a night, what then? If that's the case, I'll take my disciple and let you deal with me as you see fit, 2nd elder. All right. The 2nd elder shouted. In that case, I'll deal with you after a day and a night. Don't even think about escaping, or the Southern College won't let you off even if I have to turn the entire Qinyuan continent upside down. Let's go. As the second elder led the Southern College away with Guan Tianyu's corpse, the elders and provost from the other colleges followed suit. What do you plan to do? The first elder asked Li Mo and Yun Ruoyan after everyone else had left. Li Mo glanced at Song Song by his side but didn't speak. The first elder turned to Song Song. Song Song, go to the academy and take a look at the students. In 2 months' time, there'll be a minor examination between the academies, and have them cultivate as much as they can. Song Song nodded and left. As he exited the Great Hall, he subconsciously glanced behind him, wondering how Li Mo and Yun Ruoyan were going to pass the second elder's test. He was looking forward to a good show. Li Mo, why did you want me to send Song Song away? The first elder asked Li Mo after Song Song left. In the first elder's eyes, Song Song had always been his trusted aide. Although Song Song didn't know anything about his relationship with Li Mo, the first elder had always left the management of the academy to Song Song. In general, the first elder trusted Song Song quite a bit. As a result, Li Mo's apparent wariness toward Song Song surprised the first elder. I do have some suspicions about Senior Song Song, but we'll talk about this another time. Right now I'm going to take Yen to the forest to look for evidence, Li Mo said. Li Mo brought Yun Ruoyan back to the treehouse in the forest of giant trees, which had already collapsed. The giant trees had also been knocked down, and the corpses of dozens of large wild beasts and low-rank beasts lay on the ground. Li Mo and Yun Ruoyan glanced at each other, then each walked up to a beast's head and pried open its eyes. The beast's eyes were murky, not the kind of murkiness one would expect from a dead beast, but one that had lost its mind. As expected, Yun Ruoyan stood up and looked at Li Mo. These beasts have been poisoned by a beast-attracting powder. Li Mo nodded. Both he and Yun Ruoyan had thought of the same thing back in the Great Hall. I wonder who used the beast-attracting powder and why? Li Mo asked. I don't know, Yun Ruoyan replied confidently. But I have a suspect. No, I'm almost certain that she's the one who poisoned the beast. Who is she? He asked. Yi Qianying. Back in the Imperial territory, Yi Qianying managed to lure 2 high-rank beasts over to us with the beast-attracting powder. After this period of study, she must have made some progress in her refinement of the beast-attracting powder. Yun Ruoyan's gaze swept across the carcasses of the wild beasts and beasts. Although they were large, they weren't high-rank. With Yi Qianying's current abilities, it wouldn't be difficult for her to lure these beasts over. And of all the students, she's the most likely culprit. In that case, all that's left is the motive. Li Mo followed Yun Ruoyan's hypothesis. Why would she want to lure the beasts over to attack herself? Yun Ruoyan frowned, deep in thought. She was certain that Yi Qianying had lured these beasts over, but she couldn't quite understand her motive. Why would she do that? Surely it wasn't because she was tired of living and wanted to kill herself, but why? Perhaps he's trying to hide something. Just as Yun Ruoyan was lost in thought, Li Mo suddenly spoke up. Chapter 274. What was Yi Qianying trying to hide by attracting the beasts? Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo continued to think along these lines. Suddenly Yun Ruoyan's eyes brightened as she thought of a possibility. Could it be to cover up Guan Tianyu's death? Just as Yun Ruoyan thought of this, so did Li Mo, and the two of them spoke at almost the same time. If it's to cover up Guan Tianyu's death, then there must be more to it than meets the eye. Let's head back and investigate. Right, we can't let Yi Qianying escape this time. Yun Ruoyan agreed. Within Rong Tianhai's residence in the Northern College, Rong Yueshan, Yi Qianying and Pei Xiao faced Rong Tianhai, their heads lowered in silence. You said that you've obtained the spirit artifact, but where is it now? Rong Tianhai asked, his face ashen. Third uncle, we did indeed obtain the spirit artifact according to your plan, Rong Yueshan replied. But it was in Guan Tianyu's hands the entire time. When we arrived at the treehouse, I asked him to hand it over to me for safekeeping, but he refused. Then, in the middle of the night, we were suddenly attacked by a horde of wild beasts and low-rank beasts. We were so busy dealing with the beasts that we didn't notice Guan Tianyu. Who would have thought that he would die to the beasts? Master Rong, the spirit artifact could have escaped while the beasts were attacking Guan Tianyu, Yi Qianying said carefully, as if afraid of angering Rong Tianhai. Rong Tianhai was truly enraged. The spirit artifact was incredibly difficult to find and obtain. He had waited for an opportunity with great difficulty and used an ingenious plan to make the demon treasure fall into the net that he had set up. But in the end, an unforeseen event occurred and the demon treasure disappeared without a trace. If he didn't get his hands on the spirit artifact this time, perhaps he wouldn't have another chance in this lifetime. However, this was only one of the reasons for his anger. What made him even angrier was that Rong Yueshan and the others had dared to blame Yun Ruoyan for Guan Tianyu's death, only revealing the truth now. In that case, Guan Tianyu really did die to the beasts and not from some serious injury? Rong Tianhai asked sternly. The few of them didn't say anything, which was a tacit agreement. How dare you all? Not only did you lie to me, you even dared to lie to the second elder. Rong Tianhai bellowed when he saw that no one was speaking. Third uncle Yun Ruoyan's getting more and more arrogant, and she even has Master Mo's protection. If we don't use this opportunity to provoke the second elder into dealing with her, we really don't have any other choice. When Rong Tianhai heard Rong Yueshan's words, he turned to look at her. You can use any method to deal with Yun Ruoyan, whether it's legal or illegal. But do you really think you can deceive the second elder? Rong Tianhai frowned. The second elder is just grieving for a moment. When he recovers and investigates Guan Tianyu's death, he'll definitely notice something amiss. And now that Li Mo is involved, do you really think you can fool both Li Mo and the second elder at the same time? The second elder hates it when people lie to him, and once your lies are exposed, he'll be the first to punish you. When Rong Yueshan had discovered Guan Tianyu's corpse, she'd also been tempted to shift the blame to the second elder. She hadn't thought of anything else, and now that Rong Tianhai had mentioned it, she couldn't help but worry. Third uncle, what should we do now? Rong Yueshan asked anxiously. Master Rong, you have to help us. Pei Xiao urged. Although Yi Qianying hadn't said anything, she was the most uneasy of the three. Would the second elder really discover the lies they had fabricated? And what about her lies? Would the second elder discover them as well? Go back first and I'll think about what to do. Rong Tianhai sighed. If the time comes, I'll confess to the second elder on your behalf and ask him to punish you leniently. The three of them left Rong Tianhai's courtyard and returned to their own rooms. As soon as Yi Qianying entered her room, she shut all the doors and windows, then took out a pendant that hung around her neck. The pendant seemed to be shining with a golden light, as if it was just a rather expensive piece of jewelry. However, in reality, it was an extremely precious spatial spirit tool. It had been given to her by the Yi family as part of her dowry, and could be considered a family heirloom. Most spatial artifacts, such as Yun Ruoyan's and Li Mo's storage rings, could only store inanimate objects. Something like Yun Ruoyan's silver bracelet, which could store a living creature like Qiuqiu, was exceedingly rare. This spatial pendant, however, could do just that. Yi Qianying placed the pendant in her palm. With a single thought, a red cloth bag appeared in her palm. Yi Qianying opened the bag and revealed a jade-green human-shaped plant. This human-shaped plant was none other than the wild vine spirit's spirit artifact. The spirit artifact's eyes were closed as if it were in a deep slumber. No one knew what Yi Qianying had done to it. Yi Qianying opened a packet of medicinal powder, then used a small wooden stick to scoop up some of the powder and placed it under the spirit artifact's nose. The spirit artifact immediately sneezed and woke up. When it opened its eyes, it immediately bit at Yi Qianying fiercely. Yi Qianying's eyes were sharp, and she quickly put the spirit artifact back into its pouch. Little thing, Yi Qianying said viciously. In order to get my hands on you, I even killed Guan Tianyu. You'd better acknowledge me as your master or I won't go easy on you. As it turned out, Yi Qianying had long since coveted the spirit artifact. Her cultivation was the lowest among the students, only an early 5th rank blade master. Her talent for cultivation wasn't particularly high, and it was nearly impossible for her to become a strong cultivator through her own efforts. Although Yi Qianying was very talented at concocting all sorts of poisons, her cultivation was too low to become a pill master or even a poisoner. As a result, when Yi Qianying saw the spirit artifact, she had a strong desire to take it for herself. If she could become the spirit artifact's master, she would have the abilities of a wild vine spirit, and she would have the ability to become strong and exact her revenge on Yun Ruoyan. Although Yi Qianying looked weak and harmless, her heart was cold and vicious. Once she had this thought, she would immediately find an opportunity to carry it out. When she blinded Guan Tianyu, Yi Qianying felt as if the heavens were helping her. That night, when the four of them returned to the treehouse to rest, Yi Qianying drugged Rong Yueshan and the others. However, Yi Qianying didn't find the spirit artifact on Guan Tianyu's body, so she woke him up and impersonated a different voice to interrogate him. Guan Tianyu's lips were tightly sealed and Yi Qianying began torturing him. Unable to bear the pain, Guan Tianyu finally handed over the spirit artifact. As he was handing over the spirit artifact, Guan Tianyu suddenly attacked Yi Qianying, but she accidentally killed him. Afterwards, in order to cover up her crime, Yi Qianying used beast-attracting powder to attract magical beasts to attack them, then sprinkled more on Guan Tianyu's corpse to make it seem as if he had been bitten to death by a magical beast. Neither Rong Yueshan nor Pei Zhou knew of any of this. When Rong Yueshan saw Guan Tianyu's corpse, she naturally assumed that he had been bitten to death by a magical beast, and naturally began to think that Yun Ruoyan was the culprit. The spirit artifact wasn't so easy to tame, and Yi Qianying was unable to do so after much effort. In the end, she could only put it back into her pocket dimension. Exhausted, Yi Qianying blew out the candle and went to bed. Just as Yi Qianying was about to blow out the candle, two figures floated down from her rooftop. Li Mo and Yun Ruoyan glanced at each other, and Li Mo flew her toward the southern tower. So, did you find any evidence to prove your innocence? The Great Elder had been waiting for the two of them on the second floor of the southern tower. When he saw the two of them returning on their flying swords, he went to greet them. Not only did we find evidence, but we also found the real culprit, Li Mo replied. Oh, who is it? The Great Elder immediately asked. Yi Qianying, Yun Ruoyan replied. She told the First Elder about what they had discovered in the forest of giant trees, as well as what they had seen and heard on Yi Qianying's roof. We heard Yi Qianying say with our own ears that she killed Guan Tianyu for the spirit artifact. What's going on with the demonic treasure? The Great Elder asked in confusion. I killed a wild vine spirit in the forest, Li Mo explained. The spirit artifact looked like it belonged to a wild vine spirit. We killed the wild vine spirit, but the spirit artifact is in their hands. Yun Ruoyan looked at Li Mo thoughtfully. You're right, we've been used. Li Mo crossed his arms in front of his chest. This is the first time in my life that I've been used by someone. Not only did they use me, but they even tried to frame Yen as the culprit. Interesting. Yun Ruoyan knew Li Mo well. His tone and expression were calm, but his heart wasn't. Li Mo wouldn't let anyone who had offended him off so easily. But I don't think it's Yi Qianying's doing. Yun Ruoyan thought for a moment. Based on my understanding of her, she wouldn't be able to do such a thing. Based on what you've said, I'm afraid this isn't the work of a single person, the First Elder added. That's right. Otherwise, Yi Qianying wouldn't have kept the spirit artifact for herself. No matter who's behind this, I'll get to the bottom of this tomorrow at the Great Hall. The next morning, Yun Ruoyan walked out of her room, preparing to head to the southern tower to find Li Mo. On her way there, she ran into Zhou Yifeng, who had come looking for her. Those who had been selected for the training were no longer required to attend classes at the academy, and their time was freely allocated when they weren't training. Zhou Yifeng, Yun Ruoyan greeted him from afar. How are you doing? Chapter 275. I'm fine now. Zhou Yifeng walked up to her. And I've already become an 8th rank blade master. Congratulations then. Yun Ruoyan was genuinely happy for him. Once you're an 8th rank blade master, you won't have to eat those pesky pills anymore. I have to thank you for coming back to save me. Zhou Yifeng looked at Yun Ruoyan. I thought I'd die there. Yun Ruoyan paused for a moment. Actually, Li Mo was the one who saved you. My abilities were limited and I wouldn't have been able to save you even if I wanted to. I know. Zhou Yifeng smiled awkwardly. Senior Sister Guan told me all about it. By this time, some of the other female students had already woken up and were cultivating. When they saw Yun Ruoyan and Zhou Yifeng standing on the path, they couldn't help but look toward them. The two of them had worked together to defeat Guan Tianyu in the plaza, so many of the students recognized them. Furthermore, Guan Tianyu had died during the training, and Yun Ruoyan had been deemed a murderer by the Northern College. As a result, Yun Ruoyan was known by everyone in the small courtyard. It's getting late. I'm going to look for Li Mo now. Do you want to come with me? Yun Ruoyan asked Zhou Yifeng. The second elder and the others will still be looking for you today, right? Zhou Yifeng asked. Yun Ruoyan nodded, but didn't reveal the fact that she and Li Mo were being investigated. First, they were going to reveal the results of their investigation in front of a large crowd, so Yun Ruoyan didn't feel that it was necessary. Second, she really was in a hurry to find Li Mo. All right. Zhou Yifeng nodded. I'll go with you. As the two of them walked out of the courtyard, they ran into the Lin sisters who had caught up to them. The two of them had heard about Yun Ruoyan's situation, and they had wanted to follow her to the Great Hall, but Yun Ruoyan insisted that they return to the academy. Unable to dissuade her, the two of them had no choice but to obediently head to class. Yun Ruoyan and Zhou Yifeng headed to the southern tower to look for Li Mo before heading to the Great Hall. Li Mo and Yun Ruoyan walked side by side, while Zhou Yifeng followed behind them. Zhou Yifeng knew that his life had been saved by Li Mo, and that he was the one who had taught him the method to condense spiritual energy. However, he noticed that Li Mo didn't seem to take this matter to heart. After seeing him, Li Mo only glanced at him coolly, treating him as if he were an insignificant person. Zhou Yifeng understood Li Mo's condescending attitude, but even so he was still hurt by Li Mo's attitude. He was saved by his enemy, but this enemy didn't even put him in his eyes. This was undoubtedly a form of contempt and humiliation to Zhou Yifeng. As he watched Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo walk side by side, Zhou Yifeng lowered his head, tightly gripping the bough on his back. By the time Zhou Xian arrived at the main hall, the second elder Rong Tianhai Rong Yueshan, and the others from the North Hall had already arrived. In the center of the hall, Guan Tianyu's corpse was still lying on the stretcher. However, there were many spiritual herbs, pills and high-grade beast cores placed around the corpse to prevent it from rotting. Li Mo, Yun Ruoyan and Zhou Yifeng calmly walked past the stretcher and bowed to the second elder. The second elder snorted, glaring at Yun Ruoyan with a murderous glare. When he had returned to the Northern College yesterday, he had intended to carefully examine Guan Tianyu's injuries, but every time he saw the mangled remains of Guan Tianyu's body, he couldn't suppress the grief in his heart. As a result, he hadn't done so. As a result, even now, the second elder still didn't know the true cause of his grandson's death. However, Guan Tianyu's eyes, which had been blinded by fire-attuned spiritual energy, had been examined more than once by the second elder. At first, the second elder had suspected that Yun Ruoyan had been able to unleash such powerful spiritual energy, but Rong Yueshan and the others had seen it with their own eyes, and Yun Ruoyan didn't deny it. Moreover, Yun Ruoyan had Li Mo as her teacher, and the second elder had never been able to see through Li Mo. Perhaps Li Mo really had taught Yun Ruoyan a new technique. When Rong Tianhai saw the second elder's sorrowful expression, he was shocked. He had been a disciple of the second elder for more than 20 years, and his impression of the second elder had always been one of coldness and indifference. Even though he doted on Guan Tianyu, he rarely showed it in words or actions. Even on the surface, he was cold and strict toward Rong Tianhai. Contrary to Rong Tianhai's expectations, Guan Tianyu's death seemed to have transformed the second elder into a completely different person. Rong Tianhai had originally intended to find an opportunity to tell the second elder about Rong Yueshan and the others' lies, but when he saw the second elder's state, he hesitated. The second elder had already treated Yun Ruoyan as the murderer of his grandson. If he were to tell him that Yun Ruoyan wasn't the murderer, then his grief and hatred would be transferred to someone else, and Rong Yueshan would be severely punished. Since that's the case, why don't we go all the way? If we're certain that Yun Ruoyan is Guan Tianyu's murderer, then we'll have to pin the crime on Yun Ruoyan no matter what. These were Rong Tianhai's words to Rong Yueshan and the others. Yun Ruoyan, you killed senior brother Guan. This time you'll have to pay for what you've done. Yi Qianying exclaimed as soon as Yun Ruoyan stood in front of the Great Hall. When Yun Ruoyan saw Yi Qianying's feigned grief and indignation, she really wanted to ask her how she'd managed to do it. Even Yun Ruoyan couldn't help but be impressed by Yi Qianying's ability to play the game. Don't worry. Yun Ruoyan suddenly smiled at Yi Qianying. Of course, the real murderer will naturally have to pay for what he did. Yi Qianying, remember, justice has long arms and it's not that the time hasn't come yet. As Yun Ruoyan smiled, she motioned for Yi Qianying to look at Guan Tianyu. What do you mean? Yi Qianying couldn't help but panic. Yun Ruoyan laughed coldly again, then turned her gaze away from Yi Qianying and ignored her. If not for the fact that Li Mo wanted to use Yi Qianying to uncover the mastermind behind their actions, the two of them would have caught Yi Qianying in the act last night. Yun Ruoyan's smile made Yi Qianying feel a pang of guilt. What's going on? Has Yun Ruoyan found out the truth? No, Yi Qianying consoled herself. Yi Qianying then comforted herself. No one will know what I'm doing. No one will find out. Although she consoled herself this way, she didn't dare to be arrogant. Instead, she hid behind Rong Yueshan and Pei Zio, waiting to see what would happen next. About 15 minutes later, the elders and provost arrived at the Great Hall. Apart from the elders and provost, the students who had participated in the training had also arrived. The Great Hall was much livelier than it had been the day before. Junior Ruoyan. Guan Ruliu walked up to Yun Ruoyan's side, clearly on her side. After Guan Ruliu walked up to Yun Ruoyan's side, a few other students followed suit. These were all students who were on good terms with Yun Ruoyan, and most of them were from the Southern College, but a few were from other colleges. Yun Ruoyan, we believe that you're not the murderer. Yes, we believe you. Although Yun Ruoyan was confident this time, she still felt warm from the bottom of her heart at the trust and support of these students. In contrast, the students from the Northern College were all looking at Yun Ruoyan with hatred. In their hearts, they were certain that Yun Ruoyan was the murderer. Why are there so many students here? The first elder frowned. I told them to come, the second elder replied. The second elder looked at the crowd below and said, I want them to personally witness the consequences of harming their fellow disciples. Cut the crap, everyone. The second elder called out to the crowd. We'll begin the trial of Yun Ruoyan. The second elder's first sentence was to put Yun Ruoyan on trial, which meant that Yun Ruoyan was guilty of murder. Wait. The second elder was just about to pronounce Yun Ruoyan guilty when Li Mo stood up and interrupted him. Second elder, you seem to have forgotten something, Li Mo began. In that case, let me remind you that you promised us a day and a night to find evidence to prove our innocence. Have you really forgotten? The second elder was taken aback. He had indeed promised Li Mo the day before, but he didn't think that the two of them would be able to find any evidence in a day and a night, so he was a little surprised to hear Li Mo say this. Could it be that you've really found some evidence? That's right. Not only have we found evidence to prove my disciple's innocence, but we've also found Guan Tianyu's murderer. Oh. The second elder's eyebrows were deeply furrowed, and he leaned forward, his long thin neck stretching forward as he stared unblinkingly at Li Mo with a pair of old bright eyes. Who's the murderer? The second elder asked. Li Mo didn't immediately point out Yi Qianying. Instead, he stood up from his seat and walked toward Rong Yueshan and the rest of the Northern College's students. Yi Qianying had already hidden herself in the crowd, making her presence as inconspicuous as possible. Master Mo, what's the meaning of this? As Li Mo approached the Northern College students, Rong Tianhai could no longer sit still. He stood up from his seat and asked Li Mo. Li Mo stopped in his tracks and turned to look at Rong Tianhai. Instead, he stretched out a hand in the direction of the Northern College's students. Accompanied by a girl's startled cry, a golden pendant flew out from the crowd and into Li Mo's hands. This golden pendant was none other than Yi Qianying's spatial pendant, the one that contained the demon treasure. Yi Qianying clutched her neck as she looked at Li Mo with fear in her eyes. For a moment her mind was blank. There were only two words echoing in his blank mind. It's over. Yi Qianying would never have imagined that she would be discovered so easily. Chapter 276. Li Mo had taken the locket from Yi Qianying right in front of everyone's eyes, and she couldn't deny it even if she wanted to. With the exception of Yun Ruoyan, everyone present was confused by Li Mo's sudden actions. Master Mo, what are you doing? Why did you steal my locket? Please return it to me. Yi Qianying pleaded pitifully. Everyone else also looked at Li Mo in confusion. Senior brother, what are you trying to do? Rong Tianhai asked the question on everyone's mind. Didn't you want evidence? Liemo showed the locket in his hand to everyone present. This is the evidence. Isn't this just a locket that Yi Qianying was wearing? How is it evidence? Rong Yueshang was confused. Her confusion was the same as everyone else's and all eyes were on Liemo. It looks like an ordinary locket, but it's actually a spatial weapon, Liemo explained. Even if it's a spatial weapon, what does that prove? Pei Zio, however, took a step forward and said, most of the people here have spatial spirit tools. Of course it doesn't prove anything, but this isn't an ordinary one. It can store living things such as spirit treasures. As Liemo spoke, his gaze swept across the second elder and Rong Tianhai's faces. When the two of them heard his words, they both revealed shocked expressions. However, the second elder looked more confused than shocked. What spirit treasure? What does this have to do with my grandson's death? Liemo, explain yourself. The second elder blurted out. Rong Tianhai, on the other hand, opened his mouth in shock. He looked deeply at Yi Qianying, his face full of disbelief. Yun Ruoyan had said that Yi Qianying didn't have such a grand plan, so she had to have someone backing her. Liemo guessed that Yi Qianying's backer was either the second elder or Rong Tianhai. Neither of them had any intention of harming Guan Tianyu, so Liemo's guess was that one of them would have Rong Yueshan and Yi Qianying kill the wild vine spirit, then reap the rewards. After obtaining the spirit beast, Guan Tianyu had been the one to keep it safe, but Yi Qianying had secretly tried to take it for herself. She'd killed Guan Tianyu while trying to steal it, and that was how she'd managed to lure the beasts over to cover up Guan Tianyu's death. When Liemo saw Rong Tianhai's and the second elder's expressions, he was certain that the person behind the curtains was Rong Tianhai, not the second elder. Second elder, as the leader of this trial, I will definitely give you an explanation for Guan Tianyu's death. As Liemo spoke, he used his spiritual energy to forcefully open the spatial locket in his hand, and a red cloth bag appeared in his palm. This is the demonic treasure of the wild vine demon. As soon as the red cloth bag appeared, Rong Yueshan and Pei Zio both looked toward Yi Qianying, and Rong Tianhai's face was as dark as ice. Rong Yueshan and Pei Zio had seen Guan Tianyu use this red cloth bag to store the demonic treasure, but the second elder was even more familiar with it. This was a spiritual weapon that he'd forged specifically for dealing with demonic treasures. Yi Qianying's heart trembled, and her body began to sway uncontrollably. Once this matter was exposed, she would die without a burial ground. At this moment she felt despair that she had never felt before. Senior brother, what does this demonic treasure mean? Just as Yi Qianying was feeling hopeless, Rong Tianhai suddenly turned to Liemo. All it means is that Yi Qianying was lucky enough to obtain a demonic treasure during the trial, Rong Tianhai replied. Rong Tianhai looked at Liemo, feigning casualness. Just like in the previous trial when Yun Ruoyan was lucky enough to obtain the Amaranthan Sun. Our academy has a rule that no matter what treasures a student obtains in the alternate dimension, they can keep them for themselves. Senior brother, don't tell me you've taken a fancy to this demonic treasure and want to keep it for yourself? Liemo frowned as he looked toward Rong Tianhai. He quickly understood Rong Tianhai's intentions. He was trying to twist the facts to protect Yi Qianying. More accurately, Rong Tianhai was trying to protect himself. Regardless of how Yi Qianying had obtained the demonic treasure, it had been in Guan Tianyu's possession, and now it was in Yi Qianying's possession. Rong Tianhai didn't know how Yi Qianying had managed to obtain the demonic treasure from Guan Tianyu, but based on his understanding of Guan Tianyu, he wouldn't have given it to anyone so easily, unless Yi Qianying had used some cruel method to force him to do so. Rong Tianhai didn't dare to think any further. Just one demonic treasure doesn't mean anything, Liemo replied. Liemo looked at Rong Tianhai sharply. I killed a tree spirit in the forest, and this spirit treasure belonged to that tree spirit. Rong Tianhai wanted to continue, but Liemo didn't give him the chance. Of course, that doesn't mean anything, but I entered the Trent's territory to kill it because a few students from the Southern College were trapped by a tree ant, and they were trapped because someone had lured them into the Trent's lair. Liemo turned to Guan Ruliu. You're the victim, so tell everyone what happened. Guan Ruliu stepped forward and explained in detail how she and her two junior brothers had been poisoned by the miasma and how they had been caught by the wild vine monster. After I was poisoned, I heard Yi Qianying's voice, so I suspected that we'd been set up, Guan Ruliu confessed. You're slandering me. What does it have to do with me that you were poisoned and trapped by the wild vine spirit? Don't even think about slandering me. Yi Qianying retorted agitatedly. Just a moment ago, Yi Qianying had thought that she was doomed. Unexpectedly, Rong Tianhai had suddenly spoken up for her, and Yi Qianying had seen a glimmer of hope. At the time Master Mo Zhu Yifeng and I entered the miasma together and found Senior Sister Guan and her 2 seniors, Yun Ruian finally spoke up. As the key figure in this incident, Yun Ruian's words immediately attracted everyone's attention. According to Master Mo's and my experience, the miasma wasn't natural but man-made, Yun Ruian continued. Combined with Senior Sister Guan's claim that she heard Yi Qianying's voice, it's not hard to imagine that Yi Qianying must have poisoned the 3 juniors and lured them into the wild vine spirit's lair. You're talking nonsense. Yi Qianying exclaimed anxiously. She turned to Rong Yueshan and Pei Zio anxiously. Say something. Tell everyone that this isn't true. I was with you the entire time. How could I have poisoned Guan Ruliu and the others by myself? Rong Yueshan and Pei Zio chose to remain silent. The 2 of them weren't fools. Just the fact that Yi Qianying had managed to obtain a spirit artifact without their knowledge was enough to disappoint them. Although Rong Tianhai had spoken up to protect Yi Qianying, it was clearly because he didn't want to be implicated. Naturally, the 2 of them wouldn't risk their lives to prove anything to Yi Qianying. That's not all, Yun Ruian continued. Yesterday Master Mo and I returned to the forest to look for evidence. Only then did we discover that the beasts and wild beasts that had suddenly gone berserk had been poisoned by the beast-attracting powder. This is also man-made. Yun Ruian's gaze swept past Yi Qianying, and the crowd followed her gaze to Yi Qianying. Some of them had been affected by the beast's attack, and 2 or 3 of them had died as a result. They had thought that the beast had suddenly gone berserk, but it turned out to be man-made. Even the Northern College's students were filled with anger. First Elder, before we entered the training grounds, Master Mo had warned us not to kill one another in the training. However, there were actually people who intentionally harmed their fellow disciples. You must seek justice for those who were harmed. That's right, the culprit must be punished severely. The students angrily pleaded with the First Elder. Silence everyone. The First Elder turned to Yun Ruian. What else did you discover? Continue. Yes, First Elder, Yun Ruian replied. As soon as you mentioned the beast-attracting powder, I recalled that during the Imperial expedition, Yi Qianying had used it to attract 2 high-rank beasts to attack me. As a result, I suspect that Yi Qianying was the culprit this time. Yun Ruian and Li Mo were purposely pinning all the blame on Yi Qianying. If they were to expose Rong Yueshan, Pei Zio, and even Rong Tianhai in front of everyone, the Northern College would suffer greatly. Even the Second Elder, despite his grief, had to consider the consequences. If he were to retaliate, Yun Ruian and Li Mo's goal would be very difficult to achieve. And if they were to pin all the blame on Yi Qianying, the Second Elder wouldn't fall out over her. As expected, even Rong Tianhai changed his stance when all the blame was placed on Yi Qianying. Yi Qianying. Rong Tianhai pointed at Yi Qianying. Is Yun Ruian speaking the truth? Yi Qianying was taken aback by Rong Tianhai's sudden question. Rong Tianhai continued. You've harmed your fellow disciples over and over again. As the administrator of the Northern College, I will not let you off lightly. At first, Rong Tianhai thought that Li Mo would expose him, but Li Mo clearly had no intention of doing so. In that case, Rong Tianhai would rather Yi Qianying be the scapegoat. Moreover, Yi Qianying truly deserved to die for harming Guan Tianyu. Yi Qianying, on the other hand, was in a daze. She had caused Guan Tianyu's death in order to obtain the beast spirit artifact, and it was indeed difficult for her to escape punishment. However, judging from the current situation, it seemed that everyone had colluded to push all the blame onto her head. She looked toward Pei Zio and Rong Yueshan, who were also looking back at her coldly. The surrounding Northern College students had all distanced themselves from her, and she was completely isolated. Chapter 277. Yi Qianying, are you still not going to plead guilty? Rong Tianhai shouted at her once more. Yi Qianying was still hesitating, but Rong Yueshan crept up behind her and whispered, Hurry up and plead guilty before the truth of senior brother Guan's death is revealed. Yi Qianying's heart trembled at Rong Yueshan's words. Only then did she realize that although she was guilty of harming a fellow disciple, it was still better than being punished by the second elder for killing Guan Tianyu. I plead guilty. Yi Qianying finally knelt down in the great hall. At this moment the great elder stood up from his seat and said, "Then, first elder, it was my fault for not teaching my students well enough to allow such a traitor to appear in the Northern College. Please allow me to bring Yi Qianying back to the Hall of Penitence and punish her severely." As soon as the great elder opened his mouth, he was interrupted by the second elder. "What about the murderer? My poor grandson died in the jaws of magical beasts. Yi Qianying was the one who attracted those beasts, so naturally she has to bear the blame." "In that case, does that mean she's cleared of her crimes?" the first elder asked. "Naturally," the second elder replied. "Since the truth has come to light, please allow me to take my leave." The second elder led a group of Northern College students out of the Great Hall, carrying Guan Tianyu's corpse and Yi Qianying with them. Some of the other elders and executors were confused, but others had some inkling of what was going on. However, it was best for them not to worry about it. After the second elder left, the rest of the students followed suit. "Zhou Yifeng, you haven't even recovered from your injuries, so why are you running around?" the sixth elder chided Zhou Yifeng before leaving. Right now Zhou Yifeng was like a treasure to the Central College. After returning from the forest, he had become an 8th rank blade master. He was definitely one of the cream of the crop, whether it was in the Central College or the other academies. The Central College had never produced such a talented student, so how could the 6th elder not dote on him? "Hurry up and come back with me. I still need to properly nurse you back to health." Zhou Yifeng turned to Yun Ruoyan, who smiled at him. "I'm fine now, so you and the 6th elder should head back. Rest well and we'll have the next trial soon." After Zhou Yifeng left, Li Mo, Yun Ruoyan, and the first elder also left the Great Hall for the Southern Tower. "Why did you let Yi Qianying off so easily this time? And Rong Tianhai, Pei Zio and Rong Yueshan. I'm sure they won't be able to escape responsibility this time either." Although Yun Ruoyan had successfully cleared her name, she still felt it was a pity that she hadn't been able to capture all of her enemies in one fell swoop. "There are some things that don't need to be done openly," Li Mo replied. "We just need to be careful." "What do you mean?" Yun Ruoyan didn't quite understand what Li Mo was getting at. "If we can think of it, the second elder will naturally be able to think of it as well. The second elder is a person who cares about his reputation, so we don't need to tear apart his face. His methods of cleaning up the sect are no less ruthless than yours and mine. If we tear apart his face and he retaliates, it won't be to our advantage," the first elder continued. Li Mo and the first elder smiled at each other, and Yun Ruoyan understood what they were implying. Yi Qianying was locked up in the Hall of Penitence by the second elder's command. Rong Tianhai, Rong Yueshan, and Pei Zio were given a private lecture by the second elder. As soon as they entered the room, the second elder turned around and slapped Rong Tianhai across the face. This slap was clearly imbued with spiritual energy and Rong Tianhai almost fell to the ground. Fortunately, Pei Zio supported him from behind. "All of you kneel." The second elder's face was frighteningly dark. Rong Tianhai reacted and knelt down first, followed by Pei Zio and Rong Yueshan. "What's the deal with the spirit artifact?" the second elder barked. Before Rong Tianhai could respond, the second elder continued, "You know my temper. Don't try to deceive me." "I wouldn't dare." Rong Tianhai kowtowed to the ground. Then he recounted how he had taught Rong Yueshan and the others to use Li Mo to obtain the spirit artifact. Rong Yueshan and Pei Zio filled in the rest. "That spirit artifact was always with senior brother Guan, and we don't know when Yi Qianying obtained it," Rong Yueshan replied. "But we suspect that senior brother Guan's death has something to do with Yi Qianying." The second elder snorted. "What do you mean by, something to do with senior brother Guan's death? None of you can escape responsibility for my grandson's death. All of you, go to the Hall of Penitence and accept your punishment." The three of them lowered their heads, not daring to argue. "Then what should we do with Yi Qianying?" Rong Tianhai asked carefully. "Should we just..." Rong Tianhai made a murderous gesture. "Wouldn't that be letting her off lightly? From now on, lock her in the Hall of Penitence's water dungeon and have the unnamed disciples teach her a good lesson. Just don't let her die. After a year, release her and throw her into the other dimension." I don't want to see her ever again. Within the prison, Xianxia curled up in a corner of her cell, her large, lifeless eyes staring at the ground. She couldn't help but think back to the moment she saw the wild vine spirit's treasure. She couldn't help but think back to how she had planned to kill Guan Tianyu and lure the wild vine spirit over to cover up the truth. Then Rong Yueshan had framed Yun Ruoyan. Xianxia knew that she had taken a huge risk, but it wasn't as if she didn't have a plan. Up until last night, Xianxia had felt that her plan had been flawless. Not only had she obtained the spirit artifact, but she had also successfully framed Yun Ruoyan. She couldn't help but feel a little proud of herself. But in the span of a single day, the situation had taken a 180-degree turn. It wasn't Yun Ruoyan who was imprisoned, but Xianxia herself. This time she had truly failed miserably. Xianxia clutched her head in agony. Just then she heard the door to the cell open. Xianxia lifted her head from between her knees and saw two disciples, one fat and one skinny, dressed in gray robes. "Senior brothers, what are you doing?" Xianxia asked uneasily when she saw the sinister expressions on the two men's faces and the malicious smiles on their faces. "We're just trying to get this beautiful senior sister to a more comfortable place to rest." The skinny disciple smiled, and Xianxia felt that his smile was particularly sinister. She couldn't help saying, "No, there's no need to change places. I think this place is pretty good." "Ha," the fat disciple laughed. "Do you still think of yourself as a guest? Get out of here." The fat disciple roughly pulled the slender Xianxia up from the ground and shoved her out of the room. "Where are you taking me? Big brothers, can you tell me?" Xianxia took off an expensive bracelet on her wrist and handed it to the fat disciple, then handed a ring on her right hand to the skinny disciple. "Senior brothers, please make an exception," Xianxia begged pitifully. The two disciples shook the items in their hands and smiled in satisfaction. "We've been ordered to bring you to the water dungeon. We were planning on torturing you before we locked you up, but since you're so smart and sensible, we'll spare you the punishment." They dragged Xianxia all the way down to a small pitch-black room, from which a putrid odor wafted out. Through the metal door, Xianxia could faintly see a few red-eyed rats crawling around. "This is the water dungeon, go in." The skinny disciple pushed Xianxia. "I don't want to go in, I won't go in." Xianxia grabbed the metal door, unwilling to enter. "Hey, why are you looking for trouble right after I said you were sensible? Don't force me to use force. Your spiritual energy has been sealed and you're no different from a commoner. You're definitely no match for us," the fat disciple reminded her. "Senior brothers, please do me one last favor, please." Xianxia held the metal door tightly. "I'm the concubine of the Crown Prince of the Li Kingdom. Please help me inform the Crown Prince as well as Pei Zio of the Northern College, that I'll repay them handsomely." Yun Ruoyan was bathing in a small cottage by the cliff. How comfortable. Yun Ruoyan submerged herself in the bathtub. After half a month of training in the alternate dimension, she was finally able to enjoy a warm bath. She was so comfortable that she didn't even want to stick her head out of the water. Suddenly, a pair of hands reached into the bathtub, grabbed Yun Ruoyan's shoulders, and lifted her out of the water. "Ah!" Yun Ruoyan yelped, only to see that the person standing in front of the bathtub was none other than Li Emo. "What are you doing?" Yun Ruoyan subconsciously covered her chest with her hands as she shouted at Li Emo. "I've been sitting by the window for so long that you didn't come out of the water and you didn't respond. I was afraid that you'd drown." Li Mo's voice grew hoarse as he looked at Yun Ruoyan's naked body. "Have you forgotten that I have this?" Yun Ruoyan pointed at the crystal pearl hanging from her chest. In contrast with the pearl, Yun Ruoyan's skin seemed as translucent as the pearl, so beautiful that it didn't seem real. Her clean cheeks were as delicate as a peeled egg. At the same time, she looked like a lotus that had just bloomed, and there were still droplets of dew on it. Li Mo couldn't help reaching out and caressing Yun Ruoyan's face. "Tomorrow, I'll return to the capital to prepare for my marriage proposal. Once you're of age, we'll get married." Li Mo looked at Yun Ruoyan, his eyes burning with passion. "Yes." Yun Ruoyan nodded, a shy smile on her lips. I'll do as you say, Your Highness." As soon as Yun Ruoyan finished speaking, her breath was captured by Li Mo. After a long, deep kiss, Yun Ruoyan was carried out of the bathtub and onto the bed. Yun Ruoyan didn't resist in the slightest. Instead she was as obedient as a bunny, melting into a puddle of water in Li Mo's embrace. Yun Ruoyan wasn't an inexperienced little girl. After such a long time she had long since been prepared to give herself to Li Mo. But in the end, just as the two of them were immersed in lust, Li Mo suddenly stopped. He buried his head in Yun Ruoyan's neck, his voice low and restrained. Yen, I've promised you that I'll wait until you're of age and I'll keep my word. Chapter 278. In the darkness of the prison, Yi Qianying yelled at the top of her lungs, but no one answered her even when her throat was hoarse. Her only companions were the rats in the water dungeon, and a pile of bones in the corner of the water dungeon that had been there for an unknown period of time. Many days passed, but Yi Qianying still didn't see a single person. Tired of yelling, she hugged her knees and curled up into a ball. In a daze, she sat down on a protruding wall in the corner of the prison to rest. There were only 2 such walls that were dry in the entire water prison. On the other wall was a perfectly preserved skeleton in a sitting posture, separated from Yi Qianying by a wall. Time to eat. A familiar voice called out. There was only one meal in the prison every day, and this person was responsible for delivering it to her. Yi Qianying immediately roused herself when she heard the voice. She climbed down from the wall, waded through the water up to her ankles and walked to the metal door. Brother, is anyone here to see me? Yi Qianying craned her neck to ask. No, the man replied impatiently. Yi Qianying had been tormenting herself over the past few days, but she had calmed down a little in the past 2 days. But every time he came to deliver her food, Yi Qianying would ask him the same question. No, didn't you ask me? I've already given you something. If it's not enough, I have more here. Yi Qianying fumbled around in her hair, plucking out the last hairpin and handing it to the man. The man accepted the hairpin and smiled. I'll tell you the truth, so just give up. You're currently locked up in the Hall of Penitence's water prison. Do you know what kind of place that is? Only those who have committed unforgivable crimes are locked up here. Once you're in there, you'll only be waiting for death. Who would come here to see you? Yi Qianying's mouth was agape, but she couldn't say a word. Actually, this wasn't a surprise to her. Li Qianxiao hated her to the core, and he wanted nothing more than for her to die and disappear from his sight. Yi Qianying had originally harbored a sliver of hope for Pei Zhou, but reality had proven that fantasies were just fantasies. Only now did she finally admit that she was in a hopeless situation. Don't say that I took your money for nothing. I've improved your meals for the past few days. Just stay here obediently. Yi Qianying glanced at the hard steamed bun, a bowl of porridge that looked like clear soup and a few pieces of vegetables. She laughed bitterly and kicked them all away. Hey, you really don't know what's good for you. You don't want it, do you? Then you don't have to eat tomorrow's meal. The person who delivered the meal cursed and left. Yi Qianying, on the other hand, threw her head back and laughed. Her laughter turned into tears. One careless move and the whole game was lost. Within the slaughtering king's manor. Li Mo, didn't you say you were going to take me on a training expedition? Why are you here? Yun Ruoyan followed Li Mo into the slaughtering king's manor. I'm going to marry you, so of course I have to prepare a betrothal gift, Li Mo replied. As soon as Li Mo had returned from the forest of giant trees, he had said that he would prepare a betrothal gift for her, but Yun Ruoyan couldn't help but feel nervous. But we're master and disciple, and the Li kingdom has always placed great importance on etiquette. My father might have some misgivings about this, Yun Ruoyan said worriedly. I've never been bound by etiquette in my life. Li Mo smiled carelessly, then pulled Yun Ruoyan by the hand as they walked to Li Mo's manor. That's because you, the slaughtering king, are above the mortal world. How can mere commoners like us compare to you? Yun Ruoyan grumbled as Li Mo dragged her away. The two of them ran into Li Luo at the entrance of Li Mo's manor. She had clearly received news of Li Mo's return and had come to welcome him. Yun Ruoyan hadn't had breakfast by the time she returned, and Li Mo instructed Li Luo to prepare some snacks. The two of them then entered the manor hand in hand. Seeing Yun Ruoyan's worried expression, Li Mo pulled her into his embrace and whispered, Yen, don't worry about anything. Just wait to be my consort. A short while later, Li Luo returned with a few snacks and 2 bowls of lotus seed soup. Why is lotus seed soup so fresh in the middle of winter? Yun Ruoyan asked curiously as she looked at the small jade bowls that Li Luo had brought down from the tray. The lotus seed soup in the small white bowl looked exactly the same as it did in the summer. After Miss Yun came to eat, His Highness saw that you liked it so much that he had me gather some, and he's been keeping it in his freezer ever since. Li Luo bowed. Sister Li Luo, it's been a long time since we last met. Yun Ruoyan stood up and tugged on Li Luo's hand. This was the girl that her brother Yun Moxiao admired, and was likely to become her sister-in-law in the future. She had to establish a good relationship with her first. Not only that, but Yun Ruoyan also truly liked this strong and stubborn beastkin girl. Miss Li Luo. Suddenly a footboy's voice drifted over. Miss Li Luo, are you here? I'm here, Li Luo replied. She was just about to head out to speak with Li Luo, but the servant had already found the source of the voice. Greetings, Your Highness. When the servant saw Li Mo sitting in the hall, he immediately knelt down and bowed. When did you return, Your Highness? Please forgive me for my impoliteness. Li Mo glanced at the servant coolly and waved for him to rise. What's the matter? Why are you so flustered? Young Master Yun is here. The servant smiled at Li Luo. That's why I'm here in such a hurry, Mississippi. From the attendant's smile and tone, Yun Ruoyan guessed that her dear brother must have visited quite a few times recently, and he must have given the attendant quite a few benefits. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been so enthusiastic about the matter. Yen, since your brother's here, why don't you call him over so that everyone can meet him? Yun Ruoyan knew that Li Mo wanted to use this opportunity to tell her brother about their marriage. If Yun Ruoyan had to ask who she cared about the most, it had to be her dearest brother Yun Moxiao. Yun Ruoyan nodded and she couldn't help but feel nervous. The servant obeyed the order and trotted off to call Yun Moxiao. After a while, Yun Moxiao was led into the hall by the manservant. Brother. Yun Moxiao was a little surprised to see Li Mo and Yun Ruoyan, but before he could say anything, Yun Ruoyan had already appeared in front of him. Why are you back? When did you get back? Yun Moxiao asked. I just arrived and you're already here. Yun Ruoyan smirked mischievously at Li Luo. Well. Yun Moxiao immediately cleared his throat awkwardly. I'm here to tell Li Luo that I have a message for you. What message? Yun Ruoyan asked. I don't know. Grandfather told me to tell you to come back when you're free, that he has some family matters to discuss with the two of us. As for what it is, he said that he'll tell us once you're back, Yun Moxiao replied. As soon as Yun Ruoyan heard that Lin Zainan had something to tell her, she immediately panicked. If it wasn't something extremely important or urgent, Lin Zainan would never have sent someone to deliver a message to her. In that case, I'll go with you right now, Yun Ruoyan replied. She turned back to Li Mo. I'll head to the Lin Manor with my brother first, then head straight back to the Yun Manor. Alright, I also have some matters to attend to. You can stay at the Yun Manor for the next few days, and I'll go to the Lin Manor to look for your father once I'm done. Yun Moxiao had already turned to leave, but when he heard Li Mo suddenly say that he was going to the Yun Manor to look for his father, he subconsciously stopped and turned back. What business does the Slaughtering King have with my father? Since Yun Moxiao had already asked, Li Mo simply said, I'd like to propose to official Yun that I take Yen as my wife. Yun Moxiao paused. But Your Highness, haven't you already accepted Ruoyan as your disciple? Why are you proposing again? Accepting Yen as a disciple is only a temporary measure, Li Mo explained. Both Yen and I didn't take it seriously. How could we not take it seriously? Accepting a disciple is a big deal. Yun Moxiao was a little agitated. Having grown up in the army, he had lived under the strict rules of the army, and he couldn't understand Li Mo's disregard for etiquette. Brother, let's go find grandfather first. We'll talk about my matters later. Yun Ruoyan glanced at Li Mo, then dragged her brother away. The two of them exited the Slaughtering King's manor and boarded the Yun Manor's carriage. Yun Moxiao began to talk to Yun Ruoyan about etiquette and rules, and he excitedly declared that master and disciple were like father and son. Yun Ruoyan had never known that her brother had such a pedantic side to him. Then why do you still like her? Humans and beastkin aren't supposed to be together, according to the rules of etiquette? Li Mo was stumped by Yun Ruoyan's question, and after a long pause he replied, My situation is different from yours. How so? Yun Ruoyan continued. We're not related by blood. What's the difference? You're master and disciple. So what if we're master and disciple? Yun Ruoyan looked at her brother. Master and disciple are only in name. You're a scion of a noble family, and Sister Li Luo is a servant of a beast kin. You can pursue Sister Li Luo without regard for your status. So why can't Li Mo and I be together without regard for our status? Yun Maxiao was a man of eloquence, but he was at a loss for words when faced with his sister's accusation. I can't out-talk you, Yun Maxiao replied. But if you want to marry the slaughtering king, you'll have to get our father's approval as well as the emperor's. As for whether or not you Kongming students will agree, I'm not sure. I'm afraid it won't be an easy task. Li Mo will take care of that, Yun Ruoyan replied casually. All I have to do is wait to be my bride. Chapter 279. Yun Maxiao looked at Yun Ruoyan's eagerness to get married, and he couldn't help feeling a little dazed. As far as he could remember, his sister was still a young girl. In fact, even if she were a reincarnated soul, Yun Ruoyan was indeed a young girl who hadn't even reached marriageable age. Ruoyan, if I remember correctly, you haven't reached marriageable age yet, have you? No, I'm 14 this year. Next spring, when the phoenix orchid blooms again, I'll be of age. Oh, I'm 14 this year. Next spring, when the phoenix flower blooms again, I'll be an adult. No, I'm only 14 this year. Next spring, when the phoenix orchid blooms again, I'll be of age. It's only 2 to 3 months from now. It's not too early to start preparing for the wedding now. Ruan, it's only been a year, but you've changed so much that you've improved so much. Ruan, it's only been a short year, but you've improved so much. Yun Maxiao couldn't help but exclaim. By the time Yun Maxiao returned from the army, Yun Ruoyan had already been cured of the mother-child parasite with Lin Zainan's help, and her appearance had mostly recovered. Yun Ruoyan thought, you haven't seen me before I was cured, and you'd be even more surprised if you did. Apart from some of my own opportunities and hard work, much of my improvement has been due to Li Mo's help, Yun Ruoyan replied seriously. Brother, if there's a man in this world who's worth marrying, it's Li Mo. Yun Ruoyan's words carried an inexplicable sense of vicissitudes, and Yun Maxiao was taken aback. Yun Ruoyan smiled. So no matter how much you and father object or how much grandfather disapproves of it, I'll marry Li Mo. Since you've already made up your mind, I'll naturally stand by your side, Yun Maxiao sighed. Brother, thank you. Yun Ruoyan leaned her head against her brother's shoulder. Yun Ruoyan was incredibly grateful to the heavens for giving her 2 trustworthy men in her life. Young master, miss, we've arrived at the Lin Manor, a servant called out from outside the carriage. The 2 of them alighted from the carriage. Seeing Uncle Lin waiting for them at the gates, they couldn't help but quicken their steps. Uncle Lin, what's the matter that's so urgent? Yun Ruoyan and Yun Maxiao entered the manor. You'll know when you see the old master, Uncle Lin said. The 2 of them looked at each other and didn't say anything. They followed Uncle Lin to Lin Zainan's study. When the 2 of them entered the study, they saw Lin Zainan leaning against a chair behind his desk, his eyes vacant, seemingly lost in thought. However, the expression on his face was not one of worry or anxiety. Instead, there was a hint of joy. Yan Shao, you're here. Lin Zainan straightened up from his seat and smiled as soon as he saw the 2 of them. Yun Ruoyan and Yun Maxiao were relieved to see Lin Zainan like this, but their suspicions only deepened. Grandfather, why did you summon us here in such a hurry? Yun Maxiao asked. There is indeed an important matter that I called you here for. Lin Zainan motioned for Uncle Lin to close the door, then had the 2 of them sit down. Last night, one of the servants guarding the Lin family's tombs reported that someone had snuck into the Lin family's ancestral tombs to rob them. What? Someone is robbing the Lin family's ancestral grave. Yun Ruoyan and Yun Maxiao were both shocked, and they looked at Lin Zainan even more puzzled. Robbing the ancestral grave was a serious matter, so why did Lin Zainan look so happy? Grandfather, why don't you seem angry at all that the Lin family's ancestral grave has been robbed? Yun Ruoyan asked. Lin Zainan excitedly said, it's because of the theft of the ancestral grave. I discovered something great. What is it? Yun Ruoyan and Yun Maxiao asked at the same time. Lin Zainan took a deep breath. It's highly likely that your mother isn't dead. Grandfather, what did you say? Yun Ruoyan and Yun Moxiao asked at the same time, and Yun Ruoyan stood up from her seat in shock. I said it's highly likely that your mother is still alive, Lin Zainan explained, his voice trembling with excitement. Our mother isn't dead? Yun Ruoyan and Yun Moxiao glanced at each other in disbelief. When Lin Zainan had returned from the Yu Kingdom's herbalist tournament, he had been informed of Lin Yuemei's death. However, upon learning that the cause of her death was extremely strange, he had attempted to conduct an autopsy. By that time, however, Lin Yuemei's body had already been buried by the Yun family, and the Yun family had tried their best to prevent Lin Zainan from conducting an autopsy. I had no choice, so I snuck into the Yun family's ancestral grave at night and retrieved Yuemei's body, Lin Zainan explained. Grandfather, you actually brought mother's body back to the Lin family? Yun Ruoyan and Yun Moxiao were both shocked by Lin Zainan's daring actions. At the time, I was worried about my daughter, and I suspected that Yuemei's death had been caused by the Yun family. I couldn't bear to see my daughter die a wrongful death. Lin Zainan's actions were indeed shocking, but they were understandable. Only Uncle Lin and I knew about this, and I kept it a secret even from your grandmother. Then my mother's grave in the Yun family's ancestral grave was fake. Yun Ruoyan hadn't expected that after all these years, she had been paying respects to an empty grave. After I retrieved her body, I turned it into a cenotaph, Lin Zainan continued. When I retrieved Yuemei's body, it was so festering that I couldn't even recognize her face, and I didn't find any poison in it. Although I still had my suspicions, I didn't have any concrete evidence, so I could only let it go. After that, I buried the body in the Lin family's ancestral grave. Yun Ruoyan remembered that there was a nameless grave right next to her grandmother's grave. Every time she went to pay her respects, Lin Zainan would always make her kowtow. That must have been Lin Yuemei's grave. But just last night, Lin Zainan suddenly exclaimed, that grave robber dug up the body I retrieved from the Yun family. The grave robber didn't dare touch it, so he reported it to me and I personally took care of it. When I placed the bones back into the grave, I discovered that they weren't Yuemei's. Lin Zainan was so excited that his beard trembled. When Yuemei was learning to ride a horse when she was young, she fell off her horse and broke her left arm. I personally used bone-setting grass to set her bones back together. Yun Ruoyan knew about bone-setting grass. By placing it into a broken bone, it could help the bone grow back to its original shape. However, the seams between the bones would have a bluish hue that would never disappear. I saw that the left arm was clearly intact and that wasn't your mother at all. Lin Zainan stood up from his seat. That's why I'm certain that your mother is still alive. Our mother is still alive. Yun Ruoyan looked at her brother, who was both shocked and excited. For a moment he didn't know how to react. It took a long while for the siblings to digest this sudden piece of good news. In that case, where could our mother be now? Yun Moxiao asked. Both siblings looked toward Lin Zainan, hoping that he had some clues. Lin Zainan shook his head. I don't know either, but you should ask your father. Yuemei is most likely hidden by him. Lin Zainan's voice was cold and his disgust for Yun Lan was obvious. I wanted to question him immediately, but he had 1,000 reasons to refute me, and I wouldn't be able to get anything out of him. That's why I hurriedly called you two over to discuss how we should investigate this matter. Yun Moxiao frowned. Grandfather, forgive me for being blunt, but father's feelings for mother are real. If father had faked mother's death, how would you explain all these years of grief? Yun Moxiao had seen it with his own eyes. Yun Moxiao had spent a great deal of effort to preserve the courtyard where Lin Yuemei had once lived, and he would often visit that pavilion to reminisce about her. Even when Yun Ruoyan visited the ancestral grave every year, she would often see Yun Lan standing in front of Lin Yuemei's grave. If it were fake, it would only be for a short while, but how could it have been fake all these years? Even so, he's still a suspect, Lin Zainan continued. Lin Zainan replied, we don't have any leads right now and Yun Lan is our only lead. We'll have to start with him. Grandfather, don't worry, Ruoyan and I will definitely get to the bottom of this matter. No matter where mother is right now, we'll definitely bring her back to reunite with her family, Yun Moxiao promised resolutely. The two of them left the Lin Manor, and Yun Ruoyan returned to the Yun Manor with her father. Yun Ruoyan first visited her father and told him about the situation at Kongming Academy. When Yun Lan learned that Yun Ruoyan had been sent to the alternate dimension, his expression changed slightly. However, he didn't say much, only instructing her to cultivate diligently and be prepared. Yun Ruoyan nodded and prepared to leave, but when she reached the door, her father suddenly called out to her. "Tomorrow, go with your brother to pay your respects at your mother's grave." Yun Lan's voice came from behind Yun Ruoyan. Yun Ruoyan turned around to see her father sitting behind his desk, his head lowered as he scribbled something, as if he'd just said those words without much thought. "Yes, father." The two siblings nodded and left. After that, the two of them went to visit their grandmother, the Yun matriarch, whom they hadn't seen in a long time. To Yun Ruoyan's surprise, Qin Jianmei and Yun Ruoyu were both in the Yun matriarch's quarters. "Greetings, grandmother." Yun Ruoyan bowed to the Yun matriarch. "Ah, my dear Yen, you're finally back to see grandmother." The Yun matriarch smiled and extended her hand. Yun Ruoyan took the Yun matriarch's hand and sat by her side. "Yenner is unfilial and I can't always be by your side, grandmother." The Yun matriarch didn't want to let go of Yun Ruoyan's hand. "Although grandmother hopes that Yenner will always be by your side, cultivation is more important. The Yun family will still have to rely on you in the future." The Yun matriarch sighed. "I'm old and I don't know how many more years I'll have to live. You juniors have to take care of yourselves and don't let me die before you." Yun Ruoyao's death had indeed dealt a heavy blow to Yun Lan and the Yun matriarch. The Yun family was one of the more sparsely populated of the larger families. With Yun Ruoyao's death, the only descendants left were Yun Ruoyan, Yun Ruoyu, and Yun Maxiao. Chapter 280. Luckily, Ruoyu was sick that day and didn't go. "The three of you must unite and work hard to support our Yun family." The Yun matriarch's gaze swept over her three grandsons before finally landing on Yun Ruoyan, her eyes full of love and concern. "Grandmother, don't worry, we'll definitely do it," Yun Maxiao replied. "Sister, you must stay at home for a few more days," Yun Ruoyu began. "Right now, I'm the only girl in the Yun manor and I don't even have someone to talk to." "That's right," Second Mississippi Qin Jianmei smiled. "Ruoyu used to be a lively girl. Now she spends her mornings with me, reads the sutras, visits me at noon and shuts herself up in her own room at night. I'm worried that she'll be bored out of her mind." "That's right. Thanks to Ruoyu's frequent visits, she's become more and more obedient." The Yun matriarch looked at Yu Ruoyu lovingly. "But I'm afraid that I'll be bored out of my mind." "Ruoyu doesn't feel bored," Yun Ruoyu replied. "Ruoyu loves spending time with grandmother and mother, but now that Sister Ruoyan is back, I'll be able to play with her more often." Yun Ruoyan noticed that Yun Ruoyu seemed to have become a completely different person. Not only had her personality changed, but even her taste in clothes had changed. In the past, Yun Ruoyu had loved brightly colored clothes, but now she was wearing a plain-colored dress similar to Qin Jianmei's, something Yun Ruoyan had never seen before. Qin Jianmei, who had been cooped up in her room all this time, seemed to be more amicable and approachable. "I'm afraid I won't be able to stay for long, but I'll be at home early in the next few days. If you're free, Sister Ruoyu, feel free to come visit me." Yun Ruoyan smiled. As they chatted for a while, the sky gradually darkened. The Yun matriarch was afraid that they wouldn't be used to the food, so she didn't ask them to stay. The group left her rooms and returned to their own rooms. As Yun Ruoyan and Yun Maxiao passed by Madame Anne's quarters, they suddenly heard a woman's laughter coming from within the walls. The laughter fluctuated between high and low, and after a few moments, it turned into sobs. The woman cried and sang at the same time. Her voice was mournful and desolate. Yun Ruoyan frowned at her brother, who explained, "It's Madame Anne. Ever since Yun Ruoyao's death, she's been bedridden ever since." Later, concubine Qin gave her some medicine and she gradually got better. But after he recovered, his mind became abnormal. Now it seems that he has really gone mad. Yun Ruoyan nodded. She was neither happy nor worried about Madame Anne's and Yun Ruoyao's fates. To her, they were simply people she didn't want to be. When Yun Ruoyan returned to her quarters, the maids were naturally overjoyed. Xilan and Peony had prepared a table full of dishes for her, all of which were her favorites. Yun Maxiao had dinner in her residence before leaving. After the meal, Yun Ruoyan took a bath and began her daily cultivation. Today she was preparing to concoct poison. Yun Ruoyan took out a cauldron specifically used to refine poisons and successfully refined a 5th-grade cultivation dispersing pill. According to Qiuqiu, this pill was capable of crippling a cultivator at or below 8th rank. That's impressive. Yun Ruoyan exclaimed as she held the black gold pill in her hand. That's nothing. The poisons you're currently refining can only be used against cultivators of lower cultivation than you are. Against someone as strong as Li Mo, your poisons won't have any effect at all. Qiuqiu, I remember you telling me that when my cultivation was high enough, I'd be able to refine the poison of the world. Yun Ruoyan replied as she put away the pill. I think I did, Qiuqiu replied. But I remember telling Mistress that you'd only be able to refine the poison of the world when you're a 9th rank blade master. Right now Mistress is only an 8th rank blade master. All right, Yun Ruoyan said dejectedly, seeing that Qiuqiu hadn't succeeded. Someone's here, Qiuqiu said. Qiuqiu exclaimed. Yun Ruoyan could also sense a familiar aura approaching the rear window, but it didn't belong to Li Mo. Miss Yun, long time no see. The man who pushed open the window was dressed in a black robe identical to Li Mo's. It was the 3rd prince, Li Qianhan, whom she hadn't seen in a long time. Your Highness, I apologize for not coming out to greet you. Yun Ruoyan smiled mischievously. Yun Ruoyan and Li Qianhan were even more familiar with each other than Li Mo. For a long time, Li Qianhan had served as a messenger between the two of them. His sudden appearance today was likely to be a message for Li Mo. Did something happen to Li Mo again? Yun Ruoyan asked. My brother is indeed away on some business and he'll only be back in a few days. As usual, Li Qianhan sat casually on a chair. Fortunately, there was a plate of pastries on the table, and Li Qianhan casually picked one up and began to nibble on it. What's the hurry? Yun Ruoyan hugged her knees, frowning. It's something urgent, Li Qianhan replied as he ate. Uncle's gone to prepare a betrothal gift. A betrothal gift? What kind of betrothal gift? What else could it be? To marry you, of course. Li Qianhan glanced at Yun Ruoyan from the corner of his eyes. Uncle knows your father very well. If you want him to agree to the marriage between you and Uncle, you'll need a betrothal gift that he can't refuse. For example, a high-rank beast core or a supreme-grade spiritual herb. None of these are easy to come by. Li Qianhan finished the last piece of pastry on the table, then stood up and looked at Yun Ruoyan. Uncle told you to stay at the Yun Manor and wait for him to deliver the betrothal gift. With that, Li Qianhan left, leaving Yun Ruoyan curled up on the bed in a daze for a moment before she slowly smiled. At the same time, 1,000 miles away in the Beastkin Valley of the Yueli Mountains, an ancient castle stood quietly in the dark night. There was a secret chamber beneath the castle, and in the middle of it was a jade statue of a beauty. Your son greets you, mother. Li Mo bowed to the statue. At ease. A pleasant but cold female voice sounded from the statue. Is there something important that brings you here at this time? Mother, the young miss of the Yun family Yun Ruoyan has already become an 8th rank blade master. The time has come for me to marry her after the new year, and I've come to ask for your permission. That girl isn't of marriageable age yet, is she? Empress Shui Tong asked. She'll be of marriageable age in the spring. She's not even 15 but already an 8th rank blade master? That's quite rare on the Qinyuan continent. Empress Shui Tong mused. We found a heavenly spirit fruit in the forest of giant trees, and she only broke through after consuming it, Li Mo replied. Reaching 8th rank with a single heavenly spirit fruit? That's quite impressive considering his age. If you can marry her, it will only be beneficial to us. Moreover, her physique will be beneficial to your cultivation. Not only will mother not object to this marriage, she will even help you. Empress Shui Tong ordered, Sunan, bring me the cloud sky fruit. Sunan nodded, then walked into a side chamber of the secret chamber. Soon he returned with a golden jade box in his hand, which he handed to Li Mo. Li Mo glanced at Empress Shui Tong, and only after receiving her approval did he open the box. As soon as the box was opened, a multicolored light illuminated the entire chamber. The cloud sky fruit was a spiritual herb that surpassed the heavenly spirit fruit. It could help a 9th rank cultivator break through the bottleneck to become a sword saint. However, it had one drawback. After consuming it, one's cultivation would forever be stuck at the first stage of the sword saint realm, and no matter how hard one tried, one wouldn't be able to advance any further. Even so, the people of the Qinyuan continent were eager to get their hands on it. Li Mo hadn't expected Empress Xue Tong to bring out such a valuable spiritual herb. Mother, I do know a little about Yunlan. Although he seems respectful and law-abiding on the surface, he's actually quite shrewd. However, he is a very shrewd person. As long as he can afford it, he will not hesitate to break the rules, Empress Xue Tong said calmly. Yunlan was currently an early-stage 9th-rank blade master, and it was almost impossible for him to become a sword saint in his lifetime. However, with this cloud sky fruit he had a chance of becoming a sword saint. This was the lifelong dream of almost every cultivator, and Yunlan was no exception. Thank you, Mother. Li Mo bowed to Empress Xue Tong, the box containing the cloud sky fruit. You and I share a common goal, and that is for you to reach a higher level of cultivation. Then we'll slaughter our way into the other world and destroy the Silver Dragon clan to avenge your father. Everything we've done is for this goal, and I'll do whatever it takes to achieve it. I hope you'll do the same. Empress Xue Tong's tone was solemn. I understand. I'll do everything in my power to destroy the Silver Dragons. Li Mo looked at Empress Xue Tong, his eyes resolute. Good. Go do what you have to do then, Empress Xue Tong said. Li Mo left with Sunan. As soon as the two of them left the secret chamber, a man walked out from a side chamber. This man was none other than Li Mo's master, the first elder of Kongming Academy. Do you think Mo knows about Yun Ruoyan's demonic dragon bloodline? Empress Xue Tong asked the first elder. The first elder thought for a moment before replying, it's probably just a suspicion but not a confirmation. He's not as familiar with the demonic dragon clan as you or I are, so it'll take some time to confirm his suspicions. As it turned out, the first elder had already begun to suspect Yun Ruoyan's identity the moment the demonic energy from the demonic ring entered her body. During this period of time he had been investigating Yun Ruoyan's identity. Through his investigations he had learned that she had been poisoned, and that despite her status as a wife-born daughter, her father Yunlan didn't like her at all. The first elder had already suspected Yun Ruoyan's identity, and his investigations only confirmed his suspicions. It wasn't until he had sent people to investigate both the Yun and Lin family tombs that he finally found evidence that confirmed his suspicions. Yun Ruoyan wasn't Yun Lan's biological daughter. Her biological father was someone else, and her mother Lin Yueme was likely still alive. Chapter 281. When the first elder began investigating Yun Ruoyan's parentage, he hadn't yet met with Empress Xue Tong. It was only because of Li Mo's unusual attitude toward Yun Ruoyan that he had begun to investigate. After the first elder met with Empress Xue Tong, his investigation of Yun Ruoyan's identity had deepened. After confirming that Yun Ruoyan possessed the demonic dragon's bloodline, the first elder had decided to pledge his loyalty to Empress Xue Tong and told her about Yun Ruoyan's past. How did you determine that Lin Yueme was still alive? Empress Xue Tong asked the Grand Elder. I sent people to the Yun family's tomb to open the coffins and examine the corpses, but they discovered that it was only a cenotaph. The first elder replied. Later on, the people I sent inadvertently learned that there was a nameless tomb in the Lin family tomb. It was built not long after Lin Yueme's death. But at that time no one from the Lin family had passed away, so I sent him to take a look at the nameless tomb. As a result, Lin Zainan was alerted and he told me that Lin Yueme was still alive. The great elder looked at Empress Xue Tong and said, but I don't think we should hide this from Sunemo. Even if we don't tell him, he will find out sooner or later. If he finds out that we're intentionally hiding it from him, he'll probably blame us. Xue Tong heard the first elder's words and her voice was cold and resolute. I've thought about what you've said, but now that Immortal has feelings for Yun Ruoyan, I'm afraid that he'll make a mistake at the critical moment. It's better to hide this from him for the time being. The first elder had seen Li Mo's love for Yun Ruoyan with his own eyes. If there came a day when Li Mo had to make use of Yun Ruoyan or even sacrifice her, Li Mo might not be able to bring himself to do so. Have you ever thought of meeting this Yun Ruoyan? After all, Sunemo is going to marry her. The great elder suddenly said. There's no need. I can't let outsiders know of my identity. Let the two of them gain some more experience. If one day I can confirm that Yun Ruoyan is truly willing to sacrifice herself for I'll see her then, Empress Shuetong said. In order to form an alliance with the demonic dragon clan, they had to make use of the only remaining bloodline of the demonic dragon clan on the Qinyuan continent. However, this matter could not be rushed. He had to plan it step by step. This was a heaven-sent opportunity and Empress Shuetong had to grasp it no matter what. Over the past few days, Yun Ruoyan and Yun Moxiao had been investigating Lin Yuemei's mother. Naturally, the two of them couldn't ask Yun Lan directly, so they were at a loss for a while. She tried to learn more about Lin Yuemei from the Yun matriarch, but the Yun matriarch didn't know much about her. According to the Yun matriarch, ever since Lin Yuemei had married into the Yun family, Yun Lan had protected her well. In order to prevent Lin Yuemei from being bullied, Yun Lan would accompany her when he paid his respects to the elders. On more than one occasion he had stood up against the elders for her sake. Mrs. Liu said that Yun Lan was a very sensible child since he was a child. But when it came to Lin Yuemei he was like a devil. The elders couldn't do anything about it, so they just let him be. Grandmother, after my mother remarried my father, did she ever leave the Yun household for long periods of time? Mrs. Liu also thought about it and said, after your mother gave birth to your brother she moved to Fanghua Garden. Since then we rarely saw her. But I don't think that's the case. Yan, why are you asking about this? It's nothing. I heard from my grandfather that my mother was very lively and energetic when she was young, so I was just asking. The Yun matriarch frowned. I didn't think she was lively, but your mother really was a rare beauty. She just didn't like to smile. Oh, is that so? Yun Ruoyan handed a freshly peeled walnut to the Yun matriarch. Grandmother, here, have a walnut. Since they hadn't been able to obtain any valuable information from the Yun matriarch, the two of them decided to start investigating Lin Yuemei's past in the Yun household. Yun Moxiao started with a few servants, while Yun Ruoyan focused on Qin Jianmei. Yun Ruoyan knew that Qin Jianmei had once been on good terms with her mother, and that she might know something valuable. Coincidentally, Yun Ruoyu came to play with Yun Ruoyan early in the morning, and the two of them had a cup of tea and some snacks. Yun Ruoyu asked Yun Ruoyan a few things about Kongming Academy, and Yun Ruoyan told her a little. Yun Ruoyan then asked her about the Yun household as well as how Madame An had gone mad. At first Yun Ruoyan thought that Yun Ruoyu spoke normally, but when she mentioned Madame An's madness, her expression and tone seemed a little unnatural. Although Yun Ruoyu's unnaturalness wasn't obvious, it didn't escape Yun Ruoyan's eyes. Although Yun Ruoyan couldn't think of a reason for it, she kept an eye out for Yun Ruoyan. When Yun Ruoyu was about to leave, Yun Ruoyan suggested that she go to Qin Jianmei's cottage with her. Yun Ruoyu was a little surprised. My mother should be in her morning classes right now, and I'm afraid she won't have time to entertain you, sister. That's fine, Yun Ruoyan replied. I can wait in the cottage. It's already late winter and it snowed yesterday. The plum blossoms in the cottage must be in full bloom by now, and I'd like to take this opportunity to admire them. Yun Ruoyu didn't refuse Yun Ruoyan's invitation, and the two of them left Yun Ruoyan's cottage. As they passed by Madame Anne's cottage, Yun Ruoyan could hear her crying and laughing. Mother's always been a strong-willed person, and she doesn't seem like someone who'd crumble so easily. How did she suddenly go crazy? Madame Anne didn't go crazy all of a sudden, Ling Lan, who was following behind Yun Ruoyan, interjected. Peony and Shilan had been busy preparing food and desserts ever since their young miss had suddenly returned, and they'd been incredibly busy preparing food and snacks. Then they suddenly realized that Yun Ruoyan had grown half a head taller than she had been in the last few months. The winter clothes they'd made before were all too small and they had to remake them. Because they were worried that Yun Ruoyan would suddenly leave, the two of them were so busy that they had to burn the midnight oil to get the winter clothes ready for Yun Ruoyan to take care of before she left. As a result, Yun Ruoyan had brought Ling Lan with her to serve her whenever she walked around the Yun manor. When Ling Lan said that Madame An hadn't gone crazy all of a sudden, Yun Ruoyan asked her how she knew. I often hang out with one of Madame Anne's maids, and I heard from her that although Madame An was unusually grief-stricken after Miss Ruan's death, she was still in good spirits, Ling Lan explained. It's just that her illness, coupled with the pain of losing her daughter, worsened her illness. She saw many doctors and took a lot of medicine. Although she slowly recovered, her mental state deteriorated day by day. At first she often talked in her sleep at night, but later she began to talk nonsense during the day. Finally she went completely crazy. So she didn't go crazy all of a sudden. Yun Ruoyan felt that something was amiss. It wouldn't have been strange if Madame N had suddenly gone crazy after suffering a major blow, but it was strange that she had gone crazy bit by bit. Sister Ruoyao's death really was a big blow to Mother. Yun Ruoyu sighed as she tugged on Yun Ruoyan's arm. She couldn't take it physically, and as time passed neither could she. When Sister Ruoyao passed away I went to visit her, but Mother suddenly flew into a rage and scolded me, and I didn't dare visit her again. As the two of them spoke they arrived at the plum-cutting cottage. Although the cottage was located in a relatively remote part of the Yun Manor, it was quite elegant. Amidst the white snow was a patch of red, and the winter plum blossoms in the yard were exceptionally beautiful. Compared to the Yun Manor at this time of year, this was the best place to visit. Although they were both located in a remote area, the plum-cutting cottage looked much better than Yun Ruoyan's own cottage. It was clear that Yun Lan treated Qin Jianmei differently. Mother, Sister Ruoyan and I are here to visit you. As soon as the two of them entered the cottage, Yun Ruoyu called out to one of the rooms. However, Qin Jianmei didn't immediately respond to Yun Ruoyu's call. Mother must be doing her morning exercises, Yun Ruoyu replied. Let's go warm up in the main hall. Yun Ruoyu pulled Yun Ruoyan into another room, calling out to Mei Xiang as they walked. A plainly dressed maid appeared, and Yun Ruoyu had instructed her to prepare tea. Sister Ruoyan, please don't take offense. There's only one maid in the cottage and I'm afraid the tea and pastries aren't as good as they should be, Yun Ruoyu apologized. Don't worry, I'll go out and admire the plum blossoms while I'm waiting for tea. Yun Ruoyan stood up as soon as she sat down in the main hall. As she walked out of the house she said to Ling Lan beside her, go and help Mei Xiang. Be her assistant. Ling Lan nodded and left and Yun Ruoyan followed. Sister Ruoyan, it's so cold outside, don't freeze. Yun Ruoyu hurriedly followed Yun Ruoyan out of the cottage. The plum blossoms were in full bloom in the courtyard, and Yun Ruoyan pretended to admire them. Her gaze subconsciously drifted toward a small cottage to the west. A thick fragrance wafted out from that cottage. It was the incense of worshipping Buddha, but it was much more fragrant than normal. It smells so good. Yun Ruoyan sniffed. It doesn't smell like normal incense. Oh, it's the incense my mother made herself, Yun Ruoyu explained. At this moment, with a creaking sound, the door of the side room was opened and Qin Jianmei, who was dressed in plain clothes, walked out of the room. Second miss, what brings you here today? Qin Jianmei smiled as she walked toward Yun Ruoyan. It's snowing well today and I thought that the plum blossoms here would be nice, so I followed Sister Ruoyu here. Yun Ruoyan also walked toward Qin Jianmei. Madam, you've been worshipping Buddha for more than a decade now. You're truly a devout believer. Yun Ruoyan tilted her head toward the cottage behind her, which Qin Jianmei had already closed. I heard from Ruoyu that Madam worships Buddha and I'd like to go and pray as well. Would that be convenient? Chapter 282. Qin Jianmei appeared troubled by Yun Ruoyan's request. Miss Yun, you're not a Buddhist. Why would you suddenly want to pray to my Guanyin today? Yun Ruoyan smiled. I don't usually pray to Buddha, so I'm just making a last-minute effort. What do you mean, second miss? Qin Jianmei smiled. What's the point of this last-minute effort? Madam Qin, I've been selected by Kongming Academy to participate in a mystical trial, and I'll be leaving in a few days. Yun Ruoyan sighed. It'll be a very dangerous trip, so I suddenly thought of coming here to pray to Madam Qin. The Guanyin you've been worshipping for over a decade must be very spiritual. As she spoke, she walked around Qin Jianmei and headed for the west wing. Qin Jianmei and Yun Ruoyu glanced at each other before hurriedly following Yun Ruoyan. When Yun Ruoyan reached the door, she pushed it open without waiting for Qin Jianmei to open it. An even thicker fragrance assaulted her nostrils. She couldn't help but frown and cover her mouth and nose with her hand. Qin Jianmei and her daughter had also arrived by Yun Ruoyan's side, but they didn't have time to stop Yun Ruoyan. Yun Ruoyan fanned away the lingering smoke in front of her eyes. As her eyes adjusted to the darkness, a small, gloomy room appeared in front of her. On the west side of the room was a long table. On the table was a guanyin statue, and in front of the statue was a burning incense burner. The smoke shrouded guanyin, making her look illusory, making it hard for people to see her clearly. My room is quite shady and I'm afraid you won't be used to it, Second Mississippi. Let's talk in the living room, Qin Jianmei whispered, as if afraid that her voice would frighten someone. That's right, Sister Ruan. The stove in the living room is already burning hot, and the tea and snacks should be almost ready. Let's talk in the living room, Yun Ruoyu urged. Since I've already seen the guanyin, there's no reason not to pay my respects. Yun Ruoyan smiled and stepped into the room. Yun Ruoyan walked in front of the guanyin. There were 2 prayer mats in front of the table, one new and one old. The old one was in the center and it was probably Qin Jianmei's. The new one was probably Yun Ruoyu's. Second Miss, here you go. Qin Jianmei walked over and lit 2 sticks of sandalwood for Yun Ruoyan. Yun Ruoyan kowtowed twice on the old futon, then took the sticks from Qin Jianmei and kowtowed. She was just about to step forward with the incense when Qin Jianmei stretched out her hand. Second Miss, please allow me. Yun Ruoyan handed the incense stick to Qin Jianmei, who respectfully inserted it into the incense burner. All right, Second Miss, let's go out. Qin Jianmei turned to Yun Ruoyan and smiled. For some reason Yun Ruoyan felt as if Qin Jianmei's face had suddenly become that of the guanyin in the mist. Qin Jianmei was still Qin Jianmei when she came back to her senses. She didn't have any makeup on, but her face was still beautiful. But this beautiful face, hidden in the shadows, gave Yun Ruoyan an indescribable feeling. Second Miss, what's the matter? Qin Jianmei walked up to Yun Ruoyan and asked. Oh, nothing. Let's go out, Yun Ruoyan replied. The 3 of them left the west wing and went straight to the main hall. After some tea and conversation it was soon noon. Qin Jianmei asked Yun Ruoyan to stay for lunch, but Yun Ruoyan didn't stay because of Yun Maxiao's condition. When Yun Ruoyan and Ling Lan returned to Yun Ruoyan's cottage, Yun Maxiao happened to be on his way as well. Brother, what's the matter? Did you get some news? Yun Ruoyan saw her brother's hurried footsteps, and his eyes lit up when he saw her. Yes, I've received some very important information from an old servant. Let's talk inside, Yun Maxiao told Yun Ruoyan. Yun Ruoyan couldn't wait to ask her brother Yun Maxiao as soon as the 2 siblings entered the room and sat facing each other. Brother, tell me what important information you've received, Yun Ruoyan said as she poured tea for her brother. Yun Maxiao took the tea from Yun Ruoyan and hurriedly took a sip. Ruoyan, do you remember old Zhao? Old Zhao? Yun Ruoyan thought for a moment before shaking her head. I don't remember. What about him? More than 10 years ago he was a servant in Mother's cottage. Yun Maxiao put down the cup in his hand and leaned forward. I've investigated all the elders in the manor, and none of them are familiar with Mother or her cottage. I remembered old Zha who used to do rough work in Fanghua Garden. Yesterday I learned that he had returned to his hometown to retire, so I rushed to his hometown overnight. Then I learned an important piece of information from him. What information? Yun Ruoyan asked hurriedly. Old Zha told me that Mother had suddenly contracted a terrible illness, and Father had invited all the famous physicians in the capital to treat her. But one day, a traveling physician was introduced to Fanghua Garden by someone to treat my mother's illness. Yun Maxiao spoke so quickly that his mouth was parched by the time he was done, so he poured himself another pot of water. What happened next? Yun Ruoyan asked. Old Zha said that the traveling physician was indeed quite skilled. After Mother took a few doses of his medicine, her illness did indeed improve. From then on, the physician began treating Mother's illness. Yun Maxiao continued. In order to thank the traveling physician, Father even opened a medical center for him in the capital. However, Yun Maxiao's tone changed and his expression darkened. Mother's illness didn't improve for long, however, before it took a turn for the worse. Even the traveling physician was helpless and Mother's entire body began to fester. Not long after, she passed away. Old Zha said that because Mother's death was so strange, the Yun family, in order to avoid gossip and fear that Mother had contracted some sort of contagious illness, buried her in a hurry. Yun Maxiao and Yun Ruoyan fell silent. Both of them couldn't help but recall Lin Yuemei's pitiful condition. I wasn't even 5 years old at the time, but I still remember that when Mother's condition improved, Father would bring the 2 of us to visit her in her cottage. Mother could still speak to me through the curtains, but after Mother's illness worsened, I never entered her cottage again. By then I'd been sent to my master's manor to cultivate with him. When Mother was still alive she'd often bring me home, but after she passed away I rarely returned home. Yun Maxiao sighed. Yun Ruoyan had no recollection of this period. After all, she was only a child in swaddling clothes at the time. All she remembered was that she'd lost her mother as soon as she could remember, and that she could only see her brother once or twice a year. After Yun Maxiao left for the army with General Huang, she could only see him once every few years. Yun Ruoyan's thoughts couldn't help but wander back to that part of her past life that she'd almost forgotten. She was disfigured by poison, her cultivation regressed, humiliated on the training grounds, chased out of the family academy, ignored by Yun Lan, bullied by her siblings, cheated by a scumbag, and finally died with a grudge. Ruoyan, don't be too sad. Didn't grandfather say that Mother wasn't buried in that tomb? She's likely still alive. No, Mother's definitely still alive. Yun Maxiao consoled her when he saw her expression suddenly turn sorrowful. Yun Ruoyan closed her eyes and forced her thoughts back to the past, once again pushing those memories to the corner of her mind. When she opened her eyes again, they were unusually clear. Yes, our mother must still be alive. Yun Ruoyan exclaimed. But how did Mother manage to stay alive? Why did she fake her death? Yun Maxiao felt as if he were shrouded in a thick fog and he couldn't grasp a single clue. Ruoyan, do you think Father knows about Mother faking her death? We've already discussed this question at Grandfather's manor, Yun Ruoyan replied. Based on Father's behavior these past few years, he couldn't possibly know that Mother's still alive. But why would Mother hide her death from Father? Yun Maxiao was even more confused. Father and Mother were so close to each other, so why would Mother leave? And does she not want us anymore? Yun Maxiao's brows were tightly knitted together. Or was Mother kidnapped by someone and forced to leave? In Yun Maxiao's eyes, Yun Lan was deeply attached to Lin Yueme, and he naturally felt that the two of them were on very good terms. However, Yun Ruoyan knew that there was a secret between Yun Lan and Lin Yueme that no one else knew about. Brother, Yun Ruoyan called out to her brother. Yes. What's the matter? Yun Maxiao asked. Yun Ruoyan didn't want to hide the truth from her brother, but she really didn't know how to bring it up to him. Even she herself didn't know what was going on, and she hadn't even told Liemo about it. I'm sure Mother must have her own reasons. Perhaps once we find her we'll have an answer. Yun Maxiao nodded. I don't think we should hide this from Father. You mustn't tell Father, Yun Ruoyan immediately said. If Mother intentionally faked her death, then there must be a reason for her to hide it from Father. We've only just found some clues, so it's best if we continue investigating on our own. Also, didn't you say that Father and Uncle Rong are currently embroiled in a fierce competition at court? It's best if we don't cause him any more trouble. In that case we'll tell him once we find out more, Yun Maxiao replied. If Father knows that Mother's still alive, I'm sure he'll be very happy. Brother, what should we do next? Yun Ruoyan changed the topic. Right now our only clue is that wandering old doctor. I've learned from old Zha the address of the physician's clinic in the capital, and I'm preparing to head over with you to investigate. All right, we'll head over after lunch, Yun Ruoyan replied. Chapter 283. After lunch, Yun Maxiao brought Yun Ruoyan to the physician's apothecary. Old Zha said that the apothecary is located in the western part of the city. Yun Maxiao told Yun Ruoyan. The eastern part of the city? My grandfather's apothecary is also located in the western part of the city, so the two families shouldn't be too far apart. But why haven't I seen any other apothecaries near the apothecary? Yun Ruoyan asked curiously. The eastern part of the city was relatively isolated, and only a reputable apothecary like the apothecary could establish a foothold there. Smaller apothecaries were mostly located in the northern and southern parts of the city. I don't know, but we'll know when we get there, Yun Maxiao replied. Back then, old Zha often went to that apothecary to invite that traveling physician, and he clearly remembers the address of the apothecary. The two of them reached the western part of the city in about 2 hours. After passing the apothecary, they crossed a street and turned into an alleyway. Yun Maxiao stopped the carriage at the entrance of the alleyway, and when Yun Ruoyan stepped out of the carriage she saw that the alleyway was desolate. There were only a few old houses with locks, and the locks were all embroidered with a layer of embroidery. It was clear that no one had lived in them for a very long time. "Brother, are you sure it's here?" Yun Ruoyan asked. "Yes, it's here," Yun Moxiao replied as he walked deeper into the alleyway. "Ruoyan, look." Yun Moxiao stopped in front of a door and pointed at a wooden plaque on it. Yun Ruoyan walked closer and saw that the words Huichun Hall were carved on the wooden plaque. The red paint on the words had mostly peeled off. "Is it this one?" Yun Ruoyan turned to her brother. "Old Zhao was talking about this Huichun Hall," Yun Moxiao said with a frown. "It looks like a lot has happened in the last decade or so," Yun Ruoyan mused. Since the two of them hadn't found anything useful, they decided to head to the apothecary to take a look, then ask the surrounding townsfolk about the Huichun Hall. As long as the apothecary really existed and as long as that traveling physician was still alive, the siblings were confident that they would be able to find him. Since Lin Qingchen wasn't around, Zhou Lin was in charge of the apothecary. "Young master cousin, young lady cousin." Zhong Bo greeted the two as soon as they entered the entrance of the Myriad Medicine Hall. "Zhong Bo, there's no need to be so polite." Zhong Bo was the manager of the apothecary and the Lin family. Yun Moxiao and Yun Ruoyan all respected him. Yun Ruoyan looked around. The apothecary was as orderly as ever. Yun Ruoyan's gaze paused on the medicine cabinet. Behind it there was an apprentice who was filling out herbs, but she didn't recognize his face. "Zhong Bo, where's that Che Mingchen?" Che Mingchen was Ling Lan's brother, and Yun Ruoyan had recommended him to work at the apothecary. Even before Yun Ruoyan had entered Kongming Academy, she had visited him at the apothecary, where he had worked as an apprentice. "Oh, you're talking about Mr. Che? He participated in the imperial examination 10 days ago, and the results were released this morning. In the end he passed the exam and is now waiting to become an official at home," Zhong Bo said with a smile. Zhong Bo's words surprised Yun Ruoyan. Why hadn't Ling Lan revealed anything of this magnitude to her? Ling Lan had been with her at the Yun Manor for the past few days, so she probably hadn't returned home yet. Zhong Bo told Yun Ruoyan that after Lin Qingchen's departure, Lin Zainan would occasionally visit the apothecary. Once he saw that Che Mingchen's handwriting was quite good, so he chatted with him and gradually learned about his situation. Lin Zainan saw that Che Mingchen was indeed talented, so he wrote a letter of recommendation to his acquaintances in the imperial court and urged him to study more. Sure enough, Che Mingchen didn't disappoint them and passed the exam. "Miss Yun, are you here to look for Che Mingchen?" Zhong Bo asked. "We're here for something else." Yun Moxiao looked at Zhong Bo. "Zhong Bo, I'd like to ask you something. Let's talk inside." When Zhong Bo saw that the two of them were looking at him, he guessed that it was something important. He led them into the inner chambers, served them tea and waited for Yun Moxiao's inquiry. "Zhong Bo, you've worked at the apothecary for quite some time. Have you heard of Physician Tsing from the Huichun Hall?" "Young master, you're talking about Dr. Tsing from the Huichun Hall across the street from our medicine hall, right?" Zhong Bo blurted out without the slightest hesitation. Yun Ruoyan and Yun Moxiao glanced at each other, their eyes lighting up. "Zhong Bo, are you familiar with him? Do you know where he is now?" Yun Ruoyan asked. "I can't say that I'm familiar with him, but people in this line of work tend to understand each other. Miss Yun, why are you looking for him?" Yun Moxiao thought for a moment. "To tell you the truth, Zhong Bo, we found out that Physician Tsing was the last person to treat our mother's illness, so we'd like to ask him about it." "So he was the one who treated Miss Yun all those years ago?" Zhong Bo was shocked. "I only know that he specializes in treating women's illnesses. 3 years ago one of the kings brought him in as a guest physician." "Which king?" Yun Moxiao asked. "Was it a king from the Li Kingdom?" There were only 2 kings in the Li Kingdom, the slaughtering king Li Mo and the far-sighted king Li Xing. "Yes, the far-sighted king," Zhong Bo replied. Apparently the far-sighted king's consort was infertile, so he was brought into the far-sighted king's manor. "Brother, let me investigate this matter alone," Yun Ruoyan said to her brother who was driving the carriage. "If you go, father might suspect something, so I'll go alone. Father's in a bit of trouble at court and he might need your help at some point." Yun Moxiao thought for a moment. "I'm worried about you going alone. I'm already an 8th rank blade master, brother. Yun Ruoyan deliberately raised her voice. There aren't many people on the Qinyuan continent who can deal with me now. Isn't it just the far-sighted king's manor? I'll sneak in at night, kidnap that physician Tseng and interrogate him. I'm sure we'll get the information we need. Yun Maxiao couldn't help but laugh at Yun Ruoyan's feigned viciousness. All right, I'll leave this matter to you, sister. All right, I'll set off tomorrow, Yun Ruoyan replied, but she couldn't help but think of the secret archives in the far-sighted king's manor. Before leaving for the training camp, Yun Ruoyan had learned from Wei Hai that the far-sighted king's secret archives contained detailed information about her, even revealing the mystery of her birth, and the mysterious young master Long Yun Ruoyan had wanted to go to the far-sighted king's manor to investigate, but her plans had been interrupted by the incident in the other dimension, and her return had been delayed by Lin Yueme's matter. As a result, she hadn't had the time to do so. This was a good opportunity for her. Not only did she want to bring physician Tsing back, but she also wanted to investigate the secret records of the far-sighted king's residence. Yun Ruoyan didn't wait for the next day when she returned to the Yun Manor. Instead, she rode her flame-steed through the night toward the far-sighted king's manor. Mistress, it wouldn't be good if you didn't inform Li Mo about this. Qiuqiu's voice rang out in her mind. I'm going to the far-sighted king's manor to investigate the archives. This time I might be able to uncover the truth about my birth, Yun Ruoyan replied. But I'm not prepared to tell anyone yet, so it's best if I act alone. Hiya. As Yun Ruoyan spoke, she urged her horse to gallop down the main road. Yun Ruoyan had chosen to travel through the night in case Li Mo returned. If he did, she wouldn't be able to act alone. Before she left, she had told Yun Maxiao that if Li Mo returned, he should tell him that she had some matters to attend to and would be back in 3 days, so that Li Mo wouldn't have to worry. By the time the sky began to brighten, Yun Ruoyan had finally arrived at the far-sighted king's manor. Yun Ruoyan dismounted from her horse at the entrance of the city and saw that there was a long line of guards at the gates. Curious, Yun Ruoyan asked an old man who was carrying a vegetable basket. Clearly, he was a farmer who had entered the city to sell vegetables. Uncle, what's going on in Wuching? Why are there still guards? Yun Ruoyan asked. Mistress, you're not from around here, are you? The old man asked, noticing that Yun Ruoyan was dressed rather well and leading a rare horse. I'm here from the capital on business, Yun Ruoyan replied honestly. No wonder. The old man stroked his sparse beard. A few days ago, a demon appeared in the city, one that specializes in digging out people's hearts and livers. Quite a few people have died in the city. A demon appeared in the city? Yun Ruoyan frowned. That's right. This demon appears at night and it specifically targets the people in the city, the old man continued. But those who are able to stay in the city at night all have identification, so they can't be a demon. As a result, the authorities suspect that the demon has snuck in from outside the city. Now, not only are you subject to strict checks when entering or leaving the city, it's even more difficult to stay in the city for the night. You know, quite a few demons disguised as humans have been discovered recently, but the cases of people having their hearts dug out haven't stopped, the old man advised. The farmer urged, Young lady, if you don't have anything particularly important to do, I'd advise you to wait for a few more days until the demon is captured before coming back. Thank you, old man, please continue on your way. Yun Ruoyan smiled and waved at the old man. The old man nodded and joined the line. Yun Ruoyan observed the people queuing up from afar. She concentrated spiritual energy in her eyes and saw that almost all of the people in line were commoners with no cultivation at all. Among them, there were a few cultivators with relatively low cultivation. There were also a few small demons with faint demon auras, but they were not very powerful. After observing for a while, Yun Ruoyan joined the line as well. After a few minutes, it was Yun Ruoyan's turn. Raise your hands, the soldier in charge of the search instructed Yun Ruoyan. Yun Ruoyan raised her hands as instructed. The soldier took out a small mirror and scanned her body, then asked her a few questions about where she had come from. Yun Ruoyan easily dealt with all of them. The soldier was holding a demon-revealing mirror, but Yun Ruoyan could tell that it wasn't of a high grade, and could only be used to deal with low-level demons. Yun Ruoyan entered the city. Because she wanted to investigate the far-sighted king's manor at night, she wasn't in a hurry. Yun Ruoyan followed a man dressed in short robes into the crowd on the street. This man was right in front of Yun Ruoyan in line, and Yun Ruoyan could sense a demonic aura from him. At first, Yun Ruoyan thought that he was just a low-level demon. Unexpectedly, however, the demon-revealing mirror didn't reveal him. As a result, Yun Ruoyan followed behind him, wanting to see if this demon was the one who had dug out her heart. Chapter 284. What Yun Ruoyan didn't expect was that she would be able to follow the man all the way to the gates of the far-sighted king's manor. Yun Ruoyan hid in a corner on the opposite side of the wall and watched as the man easily entered the manor with his token. The far-sighted king's manor really is a filthy place, Yun Ruoyan thought. Most official manors were only guarded by guards, and even Li Mo's manor only had 2 guards. However, the far-sighted king's manor had 6 guards, and it was clear that the security within the manor was even tighter. For the sake of convenience, Yun Ruoyan had abandoned the flames teat at the city gates. She found a random inn nearby to rest for the night, ate some food and then rested for the night. By the time night fell, Yun Ruoyan, dressed in black, arrived at a secluded corner of the far-sighted king's manor and silently climbed over the wall. As soon as she landed, a group of 7 or 8 guards from the manor passed by. Yun Ruoyan quickly hid behind a rock garden. Yun Ruoyan surveyed her surroundings and found that she had landed in the backyard of the manor, and not far from where the head of the manor resided. Yun Ruoyan's impression of the far-sighted king's manor had come from Zhou Xian, but he hadn't been very clear. She needed to find someone to clarify the situation in the manor. As a result, when the second group of patrolling guards passed by, Yun Ruoyan dashed to the back of the last guard and patted him on the shoulder. The guard turned around, but before he could say anything, Yun Ruoyan quickly waved her hand, and a colorless and odorless bewitching powder landed on his face. Yun Ruoyan's figure flickered and she disappeared once more. "Ah Jin, what's the matter?" The guard in front stopped and asked Ah Jin, who had fallen behind. "Oh, I need to relieve myself. You guys go on ahead, I'll catch up to you in a bit," Ah Jin replied. After the guards left, Ah Jin walked up to the rock garden and stared at Yun Ruoyan in the shadows, his expression blank. "Where does the far-sighted king live?" Yun Ruoyan asked. "In the center of the backyard in the library." Ah Jin pointed to the backyard. In the darkness of the night, there was a building that was taller than the other buildings. "That should be the book garden. Do you know where the far-sighted king's secret archives are kept?" "I don't know." Ah Jin answered with a dull expression. "However, there is a forbidden area in the Garden of Books that outsiders are not allowed to enter. All the confidential items in the Ming King's manor are probably stored there." "All right." Yun Ruoyan nodded. "In that case, do you know of a physician in the manor by the surname of Tseng? He was invited by the far-sighted king to treat your consort's infertility?" "Yes, he lives in the side courtyard," Ah Jin replied. After a moment's thought, Yun Ruoyan decided that there was nothing more she wanted to ask. "Go back to sleep now, and when you wake up, forget everything that happened." Ah Jin nodded with a dull look in his eyes, then turned around and left. Yun Ruoyan thought for a moment, then decided to kidnap Dr. Tsing first. Given her cultivation, it wouldn't be difficult for her to escape if she was discovered while she was looking through the archives. However, it wouldn't be easy to kidnap Dr. Tseng. Yun Ruoyan followed Ah Jin's directions and arrived at the side courtyard where Dr. Tseng resided. It was already late at night, and apart from the 2 lanterns hanging by the door, it was pitch black. Perhaps because the manor was heavily guarded, the gates were closed and not bolted. Yun Ruoyan walked straight to the main residence, but instead of opening the door, she knocked on the door. She had discovered that there were clothes of a woman and a child on the clothesline in the courtyard. If she were to forcefully kidnap Dr. Tseng, she would surely alarm the women and children, and the commotion would be troublesome. "Who is it? It's so late." As Yun Ruoyan knocked on the door, a middle-aged man's voice could be heard from within. "Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Tseng. Madame Tseng suddenly had a stomachache and she sent me to bring you to see her," Yun Ruoyan replied softly. "I saw that the door was open, so I rushed in. Please don't blame me, sir." "Alright, wait a moment." The middle-aged man turned on the lights in the pitch-black room. A moment later, the door opened and a middle-aged man with a long beard poked his head out. Dr. Tsing's eyes widened as soon as he saw a woman dressed in black. But the next moment he was enveloped by a colorless and odorless bewitching powder, and he lost all sense of self, becoming a puppet that only listened to Yunruo's commands. "Husband, who is it?" A middle-aged woman's voice rang out from within the room. "Give me a few doses of this medicine, but don't let your family suspect anything. In 2 hours wait for me at the rock garden by the southern wall, and don't let anyone discover you," Yunruo whispered to Dr. Tsing. Dr. Tsing nodded woodenly at first, then as if he had suddenly returned to normal, he turned back to the room and said, "It's one of His Highness's concubines. She's fine and I've checked on her before. She's just suffering from a bit of cold in the winter. I'll go get some medicine for her and she'll recover quickly." As Yunruo requested, Dr. Tsing entered the room and handed some medicine to Yunruo. Yunruo placed the medicine on the windowsill then turned to leave. After leaving the side courtyard, Yunruo headed straight for the tallest building in the backyard, the Library of Fragrance. She hadn't even walked half a kilometer when she encountered 5 or 6 groups of guards, which made her a little surprised. No matter how bad her impression of Li Xing was and how undeserving of his reputation, he was still known as the virtuous king of the Li Kingdom. Li Xing was also well loved by the common folk, so there shouldn't be any assassination attempts on him. Why did he make himself look like a frightened bird? Was he trying to guard against that heart-gouging demon? But the far-sighted king's manor had a demon hidden within it, so why would he be afraid of it? Yunruo easily avoided all the guards, then leaped over the wall and entered the Library of Fragrance. As soon as her feet touched the ground, she ducked into the shade of a nearby tree and began surveying the surroundings. What surprised Yunruo was that there wasn't a single guard in sight. The entire manor seemed to be heavily guarded on the outside but loosely guarded on the inside. However, Yunruo didn't relax in the slightest. There were 2 reasons why the far-sighted king's manor was so heavily guarded on the outside and loosely guarded on the inside. First, there were far too many secrets hidden within the Library of Fragrance. Just as Ajin had said, outsiders weren't allowed in, not even guards. Second, there were experts hidden within the Library of Fragrance, so there was no need for any other guards. When she thought of the second reason, Yunruo became even more cautious. Other than the lanterns in the corridors, almost all of the other rooms in the Library of Fragrance were dark. Only one room on the second floor of the tallest building was still lit. Yunruo bent down and carefully walked to the side of the building. Using the darkness of the night and the thick shadows of the building, Yunruo made her way to the second floor of the building. As soon as Yunruo reached the second floor, she heard the sound of voices coming from the brightly lit room. She bent down and walked to the window of the room. "Your Highness, these are the desserts I prepared for you today. They're still fresh," Yunruo heard a young man's voice. "All right, thank you for your hard work." A middle-aged man's voice followed. Yunruo recognized this middle-aged man's voice. It was the far-sighted king, Li Xing, whom she had met twice before. "Your Highness, these are the hearts of girls under the age of 16, and they're definitely the best." The young man laughed wickedly. As soon as Yunruo heard the word heart, she couldn't help but frown. So the culprit behind all of this is none other than the far-sighted king, Li Xing. Yunruo couldn't help but feel shocked. She slowly straightened up and carefully poked a hole in the paper of the window with her finger. Then she looked into the room through the hole. Yunruo saw 2 people in the room, the far-sighted king Li Xing and a young man. The man was dressed in short robes, and he was the demonic youth whom Yunruo had followed all the way to the far-sighted king's manor that morning. "Be careful and don't let the cultivators in the city get a hold of you. If you do, even I won't be able to save you." As he spoke, Li Xing's gaze landed on a small sandalwood table in front of him. Within the box was the so-called desserts that the 2 youths were talking about. "Don't worry, Your Highness, I didn't just dig out the hearts of young girls. In order to mislead the public, I also dug out the hearts of some elderly and children," the demonic youth continued. The young man with the demonic aura said, "The situation in the city is a bit tense these days. Today's dessert was obtained by this lowly one outside the city. This lowly one will never be caught. Even if I am caught, I will never betray Your Highness. Besides, even if I do betray you, the common folk won't believe me. After all, you're a virtuous king that everyone loves." "That's true." Li Xing seemed to be very pleased with the youth's words and he chuckled softly. In that case, Your Highness, if you don't have any other orders for me, I'll take my leave now. Once I've rested enough, I'll be able to prepare more desserts for you. Go. Li Xing waved his hand at the youth. Yun Ruoyan had intended to wait for the youth to leave before sneaking into Li Xing's room to kidnap him, force him to reveal the location of the secret document, and then kill him for the sake of the common folk. However, not long after the youth left, Li Xing picked up the box containing the young girl's heart, stood up and walked to a corner of the room. There was an inconspicuous flower pot in that corner, and the flowers and plants within it were even more inconspicuous. Li Xing squatted down and gently turned this unremarkable flower pot. The wall behind the flower pot suddenly opened on its own. After a creaking sound, there was already a gap the size of a door on the wall. It was actually the entrance to a secret room. Li Xing stood up and walked toward the small door. When Li Xing's figure disappeared into the secret chamber, she pushed open the window, jumped into the room and followed him through the small door without hesitation. Chapter 285. Yun Ruoyan followed behind Li Xing, entering a small door that led to an unknown secret chamber. Behind the door was a flight of stairs that led downwards. The walls on either side of the stairs were inlaid with moonstones for illumination, and Yun Ruoyan's footsteps were light as she walked down the stairs. The only sound that echoed in this relatively secluded chamber was Li Xing's footsteps. After a while, when Yun Ruoyan had walked up to the 116th step, Li Xing's footsteps grew softer and the echoes disappeared. Yun Ruoyan guessed that Li Xing had probably entered a larger chamber. Sure enough, when she turned a corner, an even brighter light shone into the chamber. Yun Ruoyan stopped at the end of the staircase, then crouched down behind a stone wall to observe her surroundings. In front of him was a very large space. This large space was divided into many small rooms, and the rooms were separated by a corridor on the left and right side. Yun Ruoyan felt that this chamber was very similar to the treasury beneath the southern tower of Kongming Academy, as if it had been constructed according to that treasury. After observing the chamber, Yun Ruoyan walked out from behind the wall, but the far-sighted king Li Xing had already disappeared into another room. Yun Ruoyan walked along the corridor, looking at the tightly shut doors on each side of the chamber. Unlike the southern tower's treasure room, there was a sign on the door of every secret room here. Some were simply labeled with gold, silver and jewelry, others with books on the art of war, and still others with spiritual herbs, spiritual weapons and cultivation manuals. Yun Ruoyan was a little overwhelmed. When she saw the fifth secret room, her eyes suddenly lit up. She saw the words Secret Records Room written on the door plate of the fifth secret room. Yun Ruoyan couldn't help but feel excited. This was the secret archives chamber of Wei Hai Academy. Her own identity as well as the secrets of young Master Long, who was inextricably linked to her, were all behind this door. As long as she pushed open this door, she would be able to uncover these secrets that had troubled her so deeply. Yun Ruoyan placed her hand on the door and tried to push it open. However, the door was locked tightly, and there was a cross-shaped hole that she had never seen before. Qiu. Yun Ruoyan called out to Qiu in her mind. Have you seen this kind of lock before? Qiu awoke from her cultivation and used Yun Ruoyan's eyes to examine the cross-shaped hole. That's a hidden cross-shaped lock. Qiu quickly judged and said, Master, this kind of lock is very difficult to open. Unless you find the key to open it, you can only break in. It wasn't likely that she would be able to break through the door, because she could tell that the door was pitch black in color and made of an unusually sturdy material. Yun Ruoyan took out her dark steel dagger and slashed at the door, but this time the dagger didn't even leave a scratch on the door. Alright, then I'll go find Li Xing and snatch the key from him. Yun Ruoyan began walking down the corridor. As she walked, she listened carefully for any sounds. After infusing her ears with spiritual energy, her hearing had greatly improved. Suddenly, she heard a man's sinister laughter in front of her. Yun Ruoyan immediately rushed toward the source of the laughter, which was intermittent, but it was getting clearer and clearer. Yun Ruoyan suddenly stopped in her tracks. She could clearly hear that the laughter was coming from her left. To her left, there was a sign on the door to a secret chamber that read, Prison Chamber. Yun Ruoyan walked up to the door and saw that it wasn't tightly shut. Rather, there was a small crack left, and the laughter had come from this crack. "Ha, Your Highness, do you want a bite? This dessert is really delicious." Yun Ruoyan pressed her ear against the crack and heard an extremely sinister voice. This voice was both familiar and strange to Yun Ruoyan, because it was clearly Li Xing's voice. However, there was a hint of femininity in the male voice, almost as if he were a eunuch in the palace. "Demon, you'll die a horrible death." A low, indignant male voice rang out. This voice caused Yun Ruoyan to frown. This voice also sounded like the far-sighted king Li Xing's. What was going on? Was there one person in this room, or were there two? "Ha, I'll die a horrible death? Ha." The feminine voice continued to laugh as if it had heard the funniest joke in the world. "You're already my prisoner and you're living a life worse than death. How dare you say that I'll die a horrible death? I didn't expect Your Highness to still be in the mood to joke under such circumstances. I truly admire you, brother." "Pa, who's your brother? You demon, everyone has the right to punish you." The man's voice was full of grief and indignation. "I only regret that I allowed you to stay in the manor all those years ago, resulting in this irreversible situation. My death isn't to be regretted, so just kill me." "Kill you? I can't bear to." The feminine voice continued. "Once I've eaten 81 hearts, I'll become a woman and I'll possess the body of a woman. When that time comes, I'll take you to my cave and let you be the cave master, and I'll be your wife. What do you say? I can't bear to see you suffer here, so as long as you submit to me." "Pa, you ugly demon, don't even think that I'll submit to you. Just kill me." But the feminine voice sighed. "You're in a bad mood today, so I'll come talk to you again tomorrow." As soon as the voice finished speaking, Yun Ruoyan heard footsteps approaching. Just as the footsteps approached the door, Yun Ruoyan kicked it open and jumped in. Once inside, she closed the door tightly behind her. "It's you." The feminine voice exclaimed in surprise. "Long time no see, Your Highness." Yun Ruoyan looked at Li Xing, who was dressed in a silk robe and wearing a golden crown. "Ahem, he's not the far-sighted king, but I am." The voice was identical to the far-sighted king's, but it came from a man dressed in rags and with disheveled hair. "If you're the far-sighted king, then who's he?" Yun Ruoyan pointed at the man in front of her and asked curiously. "He's a demon. He trapped me here and then changed into my appearance, using my name as the Wisdom King to commit crimes everywhere," the man in ragged clothes said agitatedly. "How dare you, demon? You're making irresponsible remarks." The far-sighted king immediately reverted to his original voice. He turned to Yun Ruoyan and said, "This is a demon I caught a while back. After being locked up here for so long, his brain has become a little unstable and he's spouting nonsense all day long. Miss Yun, please don't take him seriously." "I'm not a demon, he is." As the ragged man spoke, he lifted up the long hair that covered his face, revealing his face under the long hair. Yun Ruoyan saw a face identical to Li Xing's. "Why are there two far-sighted kings?" Yun Ruoyan pretended to be surprised. "I'm the real one," the man hurriedly explained. "I'm the real one, he's the fake one. He's the fake one, I'm the real one." The two of them began to quarrel. "Stop arguing, both of you. I have a way to tell if you're real or fake." Yun Ruoyan interrupted their argument. "What way?" the two of them asked simultaneously, but Yun Ruoyan could clearly see that the man in rags was a little nervous, while the man in rags seemed to be hopeful. "My master Li Mo will be here soon," Yun Ruoyan replied. She turned to Li Xing and continued, "When he arrives, I'm sure he'll be able to tell whether you're real or fake." As soon as Yun Ruoyan said this, Li Xing's expression changed dramatically. He suddenly waved his hand at Yun Ruoyan and a small jade-green snake flew toward her. Now that Yun Ruoyan was an 8th-rank cultivator, the power of her attacks had greatly increased. She stretched out her hand and a white ray of spiritual power shot out from her fingertip. It hit the body of the small dark green snake, and the small snake was directly smashed by the spiritual power. "Demon, surrender now!" Yun Ruoyan shouted. "Mind your own business." The demon shouted back at Yun Ruoyan, then waved his hand at her. Countless small snakes, spiders and other venomous creatures flew toward Yun Ruoyan. A faint spiritual barrier appeared around Yun Ruoyan's body. Although these venomous creatures were poisonous, they didn't possess any spiritual energy. As soon as they came into contact with Yun Ruoyan's barrier, they were repelled, unable to harm Yun Ruoyan in the slightest. It looks like I'll have to quiet you down. As she spoke, Yun Ruoyan thought about Li Sheng. She waved her hand and released a bewitching fog, but strangely, it didn't have any effect on the fake Li Sheng. "Qiuqiu, why didn't my bewitching fog work?" Yun Ruoyan asked curiously. "Mistress, there's only one circumstance in which the bewitching fog would be ineffective. If the opponent's cultivation is higher than yours. That's impossible. He doesn't look like he has any cultivation at all." Yun Ruoyan was astonished. "And apart from releasing venomous creatures, there's nothing else he can do." "Forget it, I'll deal with him first." Yun Ruoyan rushed toward the fake Li Sheng, who couldn't dodge in time. Yun Ruoyan chopped down on the back of his neck and he collapsed to the ground. Yun Ruoyan pays her respects to the far-sighted king. Yun Ruoyan walked up to the tattered man and bowed respectfully. No need, no need. You've saved me and I'll be sure to reward you handsomely." The real far-sighted king exclaimed. Unexpectedly, Yun Ruoyan had saved the real far-sighted king. She had been worried that it would be difficult to obtain the key to the far-sighted king's archives, but it seemed that this was no longer a problem. It wouldn't be too much to ask the far-sighted king to look through the archives. This way she wouldn't even have to sneak Physician Sing away. You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.